A new generation of dragons rises under his wings.
Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei was trained his kids with the help of his harem movie. Before we start, please go support El Hero de la Luz for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. It's been over 20 years since our hero Hyoudou Issei saved the human and supernatural worlds. He managed to marry his harem, and the result was a group of serious, fun, and troubled boys. But peace won't last long, and now they'll be tasked with saving the world. Prologue. Times of peace and the new generation. The battle against the Sirzechs had ended, and the result was several of the faction leaders locked up with the beast. The advantage is that an attack that Issei gave in his dragon devil mode had left the monster weakened, so the battle against the beast would not last as long as they expected. On the other hand, Issei, thanks to his achievements in battle, was promoted to high-class demon and consequently was given his own set of demonic pieces. After that, the first rating games between the factions of the Alliance took place, where the first winner in that cup was the Chestnut, who during the final battle against his rival Volley Lucifer, had given his soul in that battle. At the end of the fight, Issei and Volley bumped fists in a sign of friendship and rivalry, leaving aside that stupid fight between the red and white dragons as a draw. The chestnut-haired boy enjoyed his peaceful times with the children's program he had and the live events for the other factions, also at the university, where his reputation as a perverted beast left him aside since he didn't have the need to look at another woman thanks to his fiancées. And finally, speaking of them, they were excited because their wedding with their beloved was getting closer and closer and they had almost everything ready. The first one who was about to get married was Rias, who already had everything ready in the city of Kyoto with the help of Yusaka. Of course, the favor did not come for free since in exchange for helping her so that her wedding was in Japanese tradition, the Redeed had to allow the kitsune to join Issei's harem. Everything was ready for the first big wedding, the heirs had the gifts ready for the happy couple, the other girls had already bought their beautiful bridesmaids' dresses, and the groom suits had just arrived from the tailor's shop, but a problem with the bride could complicate the Redeed's wedding. 2 days before the wedding, Rias had gone out with the girls to dinner to celebrate that everything was ready and that the next day they would be leaving for Kyoto, but that outing ended badly. Rias the Redeed Gremory had eaten caviar, which was spoiled. And unfortunately, the stomach pain wouldn't let her leave the bathroom. Wait, did you think I would betray the chestnut tree? Well, no, my friends, that's not the case in this story. They value the love they have for him and vice versa, so gaining Hexwell experience to please him is the last thing they would think about. All the girls were confident and full of love that they would know how to please a dragon without the need to experiment, but well, I'm getting off track, so let's continue. On the wedding day, thanks to the help of the Phoenix clan, they gave her a tear to cure her stomach pain, since the fish roe inside her body and the nerves of getting married had made the girl turn pale, but she wouldn't let anything take away her beautiful day. Even though she was a little weak in the middle of the ceremony, when Vasco Strada, who offered to sponsor all of Issei's weddings, asked Rias if she accepted Issei as her husband. She said she did, they exchanged rings, and when they kissed each other, making them look like a newlywed couple, she cried with joy. Her dream of marrying the person she loves the most had come true. After that event, the following weddings took place in the following order and place. Akeno. At her mother's temple, where she wore a beautiful wedding kimono. Asia. She went to the local church in Kuoh, and the party was held at the Hyoudou house. Hineko and Kuroka. They wanted their wedding to be double, so if it was their wish the brown-haired man would not deny it, they celebrated it in Kyoto anyway, but this time it was in hidden Kyoto, where the Osaka residence served as the venue for the event. Zenobia. The girls celebrated her wedding with a chestnut tree in the Vatican, with the approval of the ecclesiastical authorities. Irina. The self-proclaimed angel, childhood friend and now wife of Issei, celebrated in heaven. The wedding gift she received from the overlord Gabriel was that she could not fall. Roswise. She is the Valkyrie that is what celebrated in Asgard. Vidal, who was defeated by Issei in the Azazel Cup, was the witness of both while they swore eternal love in front of the Odin monument. Ravel. She celebrated her wedding in the castle of her territory. Her family held the big event and they had to stop a closet siskin who did not want his sister to marry so young, according to him, thanks to the support of his parents and his wives, who were the heiress of the Valak house and her entourage Queen Eubeluna. This did not go further and they released him when Ravel said she accepted, he just cried comically. Sona. That's right, gentlemen, Issei managed to conquer and repair the heart of this girl after her sister locked herself away to face the beast and of course beat her at chess, well with the help of Drake of course, the pride of a dragon and not wanting to lose led Issei to beat her at her game. She got married in her territory and her parents are insistent that the boy who will finally make her fall in love would arrive. Tsubasa Yura. She asked permission from her king and the queen of Issei's harem to enter into a relationship, which was given, and they married after Sona at the Hyoudou residence, at the request of her parents. Ilmenhold. The beautiful vampiress conquered the dragon's heart after the battles with him at her side during the Azazel Cup. They were married in the castle of the Teeps faction, where the classical dance dominated throughout the night. The Fae. The youngest of the Pendragon house, since they first asked permission from her father and brother to have a closer relationship than the current one they had due to the mage demon contract. After a few years they married in the Pendragon castle, the same situation that Razor occurred, and Arthur was locked in his room with his girlfriend and castlemate until the ceremony was over. It is worth mentioning that on both occasions where the jealousy of the brothers occurred, Issei was chased for a while. Ingvald. The queen of the Sekiryuutei, who helped the boy at a key moment in the Azazel Cup and in other battles. They got married on the shores of the beaches of Japan since she loves the sea. Finally, the beautiful Yusaka. She fell in love with Issei for the way he treated his girls and how he didn't look down on them, leading her to open her heart. Their wedding was at his home in hidden Kyoto. It is worth mentioning that at all weddings, the other girls who were not married or had already married went as bridesmaids to the bride in turn, this as a sign of sisterhood. Since the last girl was married, and as promised, Issei's wedding night with the girls was unforgettable. Rias was the first to claim the guy, and from then on, the last girl was satisfied. I'm not one to say it, but they didn't leave the room for 5 days. As time passed, the girls began to have greater responsibilities. Some had to occupy their corresponding positions or help in whatever the others and the brown-haired boy needed, the latter being the pillar and hero of the factions. Only 3 years passed since the battle against the Trihexa and a miracle happened. Those who locked themselves in the dimension to defeat the beast had left the dimension sealing the beast. The leaders were surprised by the weddings of their sisters and followers, and again 2 Siscones chased a chestnut tree for having stolen their sister's purity. A few months after that, the brown-haired boy's first child was announced. This was the product of the union of Issei and Akeno, who took the opportunity to rub her pregnancy in Ria's face. Akeno. You may have taken Issei's virginity, but I gave him his first child. Iridi just got angry and brought the brunette into the room until she was sure she was pregnant. Within 2 years, the girls were either pregnant or already had a child on the way. The years passed and the responsibilities of being parents, pillars and leaders of homes are assistants to them. The time spent with the brown-haired boy became less. Sometimes they only got to sleep with him in his bed or literally slept in his office due to excess work. Issei saw that this was not going in the right direction, so he spoke with the leaders, where he requested that all the girls without exception be given vacations from their activities, this to resume the intimacy between him and his girls. The advantage they had was that his eldest son was already in the 3rd year of high school in the same school where he had once been, and being the king of his own entourage where his brothers were, he would take care of them. The leaders accepted the proposal, which pleased the chestnut-haired man who was already a man, perverted with his wives, but as a man he went to his mansion and called all his girls, who were worried by the chestnut-haired man's sudden call. All the girls arrived home, some tired and others worried. They thought that he was going to complain about the lack of love she had dedicated to the boy. Then in the middle of the room, Issei appeared with a document in his hand. Issei. Girls, we have to talk about something delicate. Rias. Ice, what's wrong? Akeno. What are you holding in your hand? Issei. Well, as you can see, our marriage hasn't progressed due to our work and the implementation of the new program, so I've made a decision that will change the rest of our monotonous life. The girls simply felt like their souls were leaving them. It's true that they had neglected the boy a little, but the thought that he wanted them far away came to mind when they saw the rolled up paper. Issei. That's why I took the liberty of buying an island near Hawaii, where we'll all go alone and have the best break to make up for lost time. The girls just stood there with a blank expression. Everyone. EHHH. Issei. What did you think? Did you think I would ask for a divorce? If they are what I love most in this world, the last thing I will do is let them go from my side. Sona. So what to bring in your hand? Issei. Here it is, these are the plans for the house that will be ready for us all to move to in a few days. The girls just smiled knowing that they would be alone with their husband again like old times. Rias. What great news, love, I want to have you in my arms and on my lips again. Akeno. I won't let you leave the house until I give our son another little brother. Ira. Zenobia and I have thought of something special for you, right? Zenobia. That's right. Issei. Well, we'll leave that for later. Remember, tomorrow will be our children's rating game and we must support them. After that, we'll go spend our time alone. All? Yes. The girls went to the main bedroom where they slept with the brunette, then Rias approached Issei and gave him a kiss of love. Rias. Honey, you surprised me with this, but what about the Gremory house homework? Issei. Don't worry about that, Sirzechs told me that it's the perfect opportunity for Milikas to get used to the duties of being the leader of the Gremory house, and your parents will be able to support him. Rias. Wow, you thought of everything. Hey, don't you want to go take a special bath? I'm not going back to that tedious office. How about we take advantage of it before they discover us? Issei. Wow, and I was the pervert. Rias. Baka, shut up and kiss me. In that, without separating from the kiss, both arrived at the spacious bathroom of the residence, where there was everything and above all, they put a silencer seal to prevent the others from interrupting the hot bath that the official couple was taking. After 2 hours of making love with his wife, Issei got dressed and left Rias in her private bedroom, where he spent time with his wives in private so that no one would bother them, and left the retreat resting with a happy smile when she felt a kiss from Issei on her forehead. Issei. I love you. After that he left and headed towards a place that would bring back memories. Student council. We see a boy with short black hair and glasses looking at some papers in the council room. This idiot got into trouble again. What did you expect? He got that habit from our father. Yes, but you must control it, she is your queen of everything. Kurenai. Kurinia. Shut up Shido, you are the student council president, it is your duty to control it. Shido. Well, what do I do if I bring out our father's perverted side and he is unstoppable? Just then someone appeared in the middle of the student council room. Issei. Wow, I didn't think you guys would say that about me. Both. Father, it's an honor to have you here. Both of them knelt before their father, as he was a figure who was respected wherever he went, something that the chestnut tree didn't really care about. Issei just went with a serious face, stood in front of them and just stroked both of their heads. Issei. It's been a while since we last talked, but anyway, I came to see how you're preparing for your raiding game tomorrow. At that, both boys stood up, since the way he stroked both of their heads meant that they had put aside the fact that he was the pillar of the factions and was just their father. Shido. Well, fighting between brothers will be fun, not to mention that the children of my mother's original entourage will be with me. Issei. Right Shido. Sitri. Hyoudou, you must put the name of the student council on high. Kurinia. Thanks for the support, father. Issei. Kurinia, you know that you also have my support, besides everyone at school is excited, knowing that my children will face each other, but that if whoever wins I do not want there to be resentment, remember that before being rivals, they are brothers. Both. Yes, father, we promise, but it is clear that I will win. If you're wondering why the school called them a raiding game, it's easy, as a pillar of the factions Issei suggested that both the supernatural world and the human world should coexist with each other, so after several years a common agreement was reached and Kuoh Academy was attended by both supernatural beings and humans. Issei. By the way, what did they mean by stopping him? Who's causing trouble? Shido. Well, you see. At that moment, screams were heard in the hallway. Gremory. SPMI. Issei. Don't tell me it's true. They both nodded, Issei just made a sad face. Issei. Well, this problem is yours. By the way, after tomorrow's raiding game, I need to talk to all your brothers, okay? I leave you because I have some business to attend to at Ansu. Note. Ansu is the acronym for United Human and Supernatural Nations Organization. Then he disappeared from the place, leaving two boys feeling sad about what their father had said. Kurinia. It is true I must stop X, as his king it is my duty. Shido. I leave it to you and we'll see each other later to watch tomorrow's game. Kurinia. Whatever you say, we'll see each other at Todo. He came out with a smile and left Shido angry. Shido. Tirado. This new generation was barely being known, but one thing is for certain, Issei and his family's life was fun. Chapter 1. Meeting the other children and the commitment. The cult club. We see Kurenai rubbing her forehead as she found out that her brother and entourage queen was spying on the girls' locker room. She tried to ask for help from her other brother who is the student council president, but both he and her father, who visited them while they were gathered, reminded her that it is her duty as king to stop him. The bad thing is that when Issei for many was discovered, he was persecuted not for being discovered, but because being one of the popular boys at school and being seen by him in his underwear only meant that you attracted his attention and it was a window to try to conquer him. On the other hand, Kurenai was immersed not only in that problem, but there were two more. The first is that this afternoon was the meeting for the raiding game the following night. That meeting only meant one thing between the brothers, it opened a bet. But what also worried him was that tomorrow morning was his parents' annual visit and that only meant one thing, his mother would be affectionate not only with him, but also with his father. Since wherever the Pillar of Peace went, it attracted the attention of other girls, whether they were teachers, students, single mothers, and even married women. Seeing the older brunette only provoked seas of lust and infatuations, which sometimes ended in fights between their mothers and the women who wanted to have the opportunity to spend at least a few moments with Issei. At that moment, the relative of the Redeed's mother appeared at the club, handed a note to the king of the entourage and left, then disappeared. Upon reading the contents, he only gave a bitter smile. Kurenai. This is going to get interesting. While I was thinking about what the note said, the door of the club opened, revealing a blonde-haired girl entering the club. What's up, bro? Karenia. Oh, it's you, Irie. Well, nothing, thinking about what will come tomorrow. You know, the visit from our mothers and the meeting before the rating game today. Irie. I see, you're worried about the bet, right? Kurenai. You know how our brother is, he may seem calm, but he takes after our father's temper, and I'm afraid he'll ask for something embarrassing as payment for the bet. Irie. You mean the usual. The black-haired man just exhaled in heaviness, knowing that this could happen. Irie. Well, you have it difficult because. Hearing that, Karenia just raised her eyebrow in doubt. Karenia. I think I have it, we all have it difficult, if we lose it's not just me, we all will do that. The blonde, hearing this, turned pale, imagining that she too would have to pay the bet and do the usual. Irie. Well, we have to have an urgent meeting, by the way, where is the idiot? Kurenai. Well. Suddenly, near the building, several shouts were heard, as if in a tumult. Girl 1. X, come here, you already saw me, so give me the chance to be with you. Girl 3. No, he'll give it to me, he always sees my pentaco. Girl 10. Let's catch him first, and then we'll discuss who will be the first to claim him as their own. Irie just stared out the window and watched the girls searching around the building. At that moment there was a knock on the club door, where Irie went to open it and admit some other slightly agitated girls. Girl 2. Sorry, Himejima-senpai, but have you seen your brother around here? Kurenai. I saw him running towards the student council, maybe he was hiding there. Girl 4. Thank you. The girls bowed and left the place where they ran to the student council. Irie. Is it really there? Karenia. What do you think? You idiot, get out of there. The blonde just looked at the bathroom of the building where the Redeed came out, a little agitated by the chase. X. Thanks, bro, I owe you one. Karenia. You owe me one, you owe me 50 now I'll have Shido complaining for sending that group of crazy people to his place. X. Don't worry, he'll know how to calm them down. Karenia. You should calm down a bit in that aspect, and what would Valerie say if she sees you being chased by several girls? One of two will either eliminate them or kill you for being unfaithful. X. TSK, shut up, you know very well that what she thinks about that is not up to me. Kurenai. Seriously, if you had said it before, I could have courted her. X just stood in front of his brother and stood seriously. X. Don't even think about it. Irie just watched this scene that was always repeated when they talked about that girl. Irie. Okay, X, just admit that if you like her and put an end to this silly persecution that you always provoke by spying. Also, Uncle Volley already gave his consent, and without forgetting that all the gifts that she gives you, you always keep them in your special place. Remember that she is your fiancée, do not forget it. X just blushed at that, but even though he didn't admit it, he was attracted to the girl Valerie, who was his fiancée. But you may be wondering how this guy is engaged. Well, for that let's go back in time a little, exactly 6 years before. 6 years ago. We see a brown-haired man with the red Emperor Dragon Gauntlet activated and a red-haired man who had a similar glove, only this one was a copy created by Azazel. The purpose of this was to pass a piece of Drake's soul into the artificial sacred gear, so it could be used. Issei and X were practicing a little the control of the increase and the transfer of power, but in that two silhouettes appeared in front of them. These were an albino adult who was accompanied by an albino girl. Issei. Wow, Volley, long time no see. Volley. Well, you should stop by to say hello from time to time, Issei. By the way, he is your son with Gremory, right? Issei. That's right, he's the little X who spilled wine on you at one of the meetings, sorry about that again. Volley. Don't worry about that, by the way, I haven't been able to introduce you to my daughter, right? Say hello. Nice to meet you, my name is Valerie Lucifer. Issei. Nice to meet you, little lady, come let me introduce you to my son. X says hello. X. Nice to meet you, my name is X Gremory. Both boys shook hands, but the moment they touched each other's hands, they simply felt a connection. Valerie. Come on, let's talk over here, let's let our parents chat for a while. The albino just took X's hand and led him a little further away from where they were. Volley. By the way, I interrupted you on something. Issei. Well, I was teaching him how to use Azazel's artificial sacred gear and channel it into his sword. He told me that he wants to fight in different ways. Volley. Oh, I see. Hey, how about you practice a little with my daughter, although I already know the result. Issei just made a face of disgust. Issei. What do you mean? Volley. It's simple, she's had her artificial sacred gear longer and has mastered it a little more. Issei. Is that what you think? Volley. I assure you. Issei. Well, let's have a friendly fight to see if what you say is true. At that Volley became a little worried about what Issei said. Volley. Way to fight is something strong, besides both my daughter and yours are dragons, right, so you know what will happen if he wins. Issei. Oh, and where is that pride? Hearing that, a vein popped out on Volley's forehead. Volley. Fine, I accept, you'll see how my daughter wins. The children on the other hand were not talking, but the albino girl had a small blush while she was with the Redeed. Issei. X come here for a moment. Both children went to where their parents were. Issei. Hey, would you like to test your strength against Valerie in a friendly battle? X. Of course, you'll see that what you've taught me will bear fruit, father. Volley. Well Valerie, I want you to show him your strength along with the part of Albion that was given to you. Valerie. Understood father, I won't let you down. Both boys were ready, they had activated their artificial sacred gear and began to fight each other. Valerie had the advantage in the battle, since his way of fighting was similar to that of his father. On the other hand, X had trouble dodging the girl's attacks, but thanks to his practice sword, which was made of wood, he was matching her fighting level. During that fight, Valerie was distracted, which X took advantage of to throw her to the ground and be on top of Valerie with his wooden sword pointing at her. The albino just stared at the Redeed, who slowly stretched out her hands, cupped the boy's cheeks, and gave him a tender kiss that children usually give. It's not like she did it just for the sake of it, but her dragon instincts kicked in, proving that she had already chosen her life partner. On the other hand, the Redeed just remained static when he felt the girl's lips, but he didn't separate from that kiss either. Just like her, his dragon instincts recognized the victory over another of his species and claimed her as his own. On the other hand, Issei and Volley did not believe the result, especially when they saw the albino's daughter claim the Redeed. Volley. Hyoudou Issei. What things, right, hahaha. Volley was about to punch Issei when his daughter stood up and went to her father. Valerie. Father, I've decided, I want this boy to be my husband. Volley Issei X. Huh. After that event and following the dragon traditions, both boys became engaged. X on one hand felt between happiness and concern about it, on the other hand, Issei felt some pride until he remembered his redeeded wife, and then went on to fear. At night Issei had to take Rias out to dinner alone to explain what happened. At first the Redeed got angry and was going to complain to the girl for wanting to take her son, but later she learned that he agreed. Of course, that night wasn't easy. First, Rias took X to talk about the subject and find out if he was okay with it from his own mouth, and he agreed. Then, she took her husband to the private room and there, first, beat him for doing something irresponsible, like giving permission for that fight, and then handcuffed him to the bed, not allowing him to touch her body while she was riding on top of him. Issei just cried at not being able to enjoy this with his wife. After a few hours, she let him go and made up for it with a display of love that ended at 6 a.m. the next day. It's worth mentioning that the other girls were also angry for having done this for almost 2 days. I can only say that the brunette didn't leave the room for 3 weeks because his wives took turns being with him. In the end, he came out a little thinner, but with a radiant smile. Being the king of the harem was a pain. Present. The 3 brothers were still in the classroom and classes had ended, which meant that their other brothers were about to arrive at the club room. Kurenai. Well, we'll leave that conversation for later. Besides, Rias Akasama received some news 3 days ago, and that's why they're cleaning the house completely. X. Don't tell me that. I didn't finish speaking as 2 people were entering the room. I already told you no, brother, you have to finish the homework alone. But Shin, don't be mean, do it because we are the new trio of the church. The blue-haired boy spoke, who was crying in a comical way for not receiving help. Shin. No Zen, one thing is to be the church trio and help us in the practices, another thing is to do your homework. Another brown-haired man replied seriously that he wouldn't let himself be blackmailed by his brother's fake crying. At that, the blue-haired man ran to his sister and hugged her while she continued crying. Zen. Irene, Shin is mean to me, he doesn't want to give me his homework. Irie. Don't cry Zen, but you must take responsibility for your tasks. Ahahaha, you remind me a lot of your father, he was the same with his homework. Everyone looked at the person who was entering the room, it was none other than Azazel, who is now the director of Kuoh Academy. Kurenai. What is the reason for your visit, Azazel-sensei? Azazel. Simple, I'll be the one to set the tone and make the bets for tomorrow's raiding game. His father had to leave in an emergency to his palace in the underworld. He said that if he wanted to watch the trading game and tomorrow's meeting, he had to finish everything today. That is worthy of my Odo-sama, what is expected of the man who made my mother fall in love? Irie. Robertina, what time did you arrive? Robertina. I was coming behind Azazel-sensei. Behind Azazel came a girl with blonde hair who styled her mother's hairstyle. Irie. And the others? Robertina. I saw them coming with the student council. Anyway, today we will be told the type of rating game and above all the humiliation that my older brother will have to do if he loses. This angered Kurenai, but she wouldn't leave it like that. Kurenai. I remind you that if we lose tomorrow, we all have to fulfill the bet I ask for, especially if it's the usual. Hearing that, Robertina shuddered. Robertina. We have to win, guys. Don't worry anymore, Sister Fried Chicken, you'll see that we're going to win, right Kuroburani? True Shiryuki-chan, you don't have to worry. The ones who spoke were two sisters who, despite not being twins, looked very similar. They were the daughters of the brown-haired boy with Shirin and Kuroka respectively. Robertina. Who did you say fried chicken to? Kurobura. To you, sister. Robertina's eyes just watered at the way they told her. Robertina. You'll see, I'll tell Odo-sama, he'll scold you for saying that to me. Calm down, Robertina, these girls are just playing, and what can we do if Shirin Akasan and Kuroka Akasan get along like that with Ravel Akasama? Said another girl whose hair was silver, whose appearance resembled her mother. This is Helmwich, daughter of Issei and Roswisei. Now why the scandal in the room? I don't know, Roy, but it's always like this. I don't know why you're surprised. Roy. Remember, Ernestine, that I barely joined you at the academy after finishing my Uncle Arthur's training. Kurenai looked at the last boys of her nobility who were yet to arrive. These were Roy Pendragon and Ernestine Karnstein, Issei's children with Leffe and Ilmenhild. At that moment, behind them, only Shido was entering the clubroom with his queen piece. Shido. How many times must I tell you, brother, that you must wear the school uniform? Roy. I've already told you that those are not clothes worthy of a Pendragon warrior. Shido. Whatever you say. Well, Kurenai, I'm here to watch tomorrow's game and ask you a favor, but I'll tell you that later. Kurinia. And your nobility? Shido. Well, they have contracts, and we already agreed on what we will ask for if we win. Azazel. Well, if you are ready, let's go in. True brother, we must hurry with this, but I already have an idea that our brother Kurenai knows what you will ask for. Shido. You're right, Athena, let's hurry this up, you also have a contract to make. Shido's queen piece was none other than Athena Leviathan, Issei's daughter with Ingvald. Shido. Well, Azazel sensei, what will be the game mode for tomorrow? Azazel. It will be simple, it will be a matter of rolling the dice, and you will also be able to use a phoenix tear during the game. Kurenai. Understood and good. Shido, what are you going to ask for if you win? Shido just gave a mocking laugh. Shido. You know, big brother, this is just a practice game. Calling attention because we are father's children is another thing, but it doesn't have enough value to enter the professional class, so if I win it will be the usual. Kurenai was right and he just closed his eyes, it was embarrassing, but he wasn't allowed to lose. Kurenai. Okay, if I win it will also be the usual. Azazel just started laughing at what Issei's children said. Azazel. Fine, I'll record that, but if there are no complaints, I'll pass this on to your uncles, and it'll be a done deal. Well, since you're here, I want to ask you all to please calm your mothers down tomorrow. You know what your father causes when he comes to the academy, and the fool didn't want to come in disguise. So please, if your mothers receive marriage proposals for you or see someone wanting to flirt with your idiot father, stop them so there's no destruction. Kurenai. Shido. Understood. Azazel. Well, I'm leaving, I have to finish the paperwork for school, and it's a lot. Shido. We also retire, we must fulfill our contracts, also according to my mother I must clean my room well, she discovered my secret projects and wants me to throw them away, go Athena. Athena. Okay brother, see you at the house tonight. The three people who were not part of the research club had left, leaving most of Issei's children in the room alone. Kurenai. Well, let's start with today's contracts, except your ex, Rias Akasama is waiting for you at the mansion, and she asked to see you today, I know because I got a message from her. Ex. What a pain. He said, leaving the room in the direction of his house. Kurenai. Okay, everyone else, let's go. Saying this, he began to give them the contracts for tonight and told them to go and fulfill them. Hyoudou Issei's residence. We are in Issei's new residence, which he shares with his wife and children. If the previous one was spacious and they lived comfortably before having their children, now it was bigger. At that moment X had arrived because his mother wanted to talk to him, apparently it was a somewhat delicate subject for just the two of them to talk about. X was entering the office room of his mother that she had in the mansion when he didn't want to go to work in the underworld, then he knocked to enter but received no answer. At that moment he decided to go in and saw a scene that was common when his father was not in the underworld. It was Issei sitting in Ria's chair, while the Redeed was sitting on her husband's legs, who was kissing him affectionately and he was touching her legs. Rias was dressed casually since that same day she had made love with her husband. Rias. I love you, my love. Issei. Me too, darling. X. I better leave, don't you think? The adults, upon hearing this, saw that their son had arrived. Issei. I thought it would take you longer to arrive. X. Whatever you say, but well, if you're here it means that the matter my mother wants to see is something delicate. Rias. You're right, you see, your father and I discussed it, but before we can tell you, let's wait for the other guest to arrive. At that moment there was a knock on Ria's office door, she allowed entry, and then a beautiful albino girl, whom the three in the room knew well, entered. X. Valerie, what are you doing here? Valerie. Hello dear, well it wasn't just me who came. Behind her were her parents, Vali Lucifer and Lavinia Lucifer, entering. Issei. Welcome. Vali. Thanks, but let's hurry up with this meeting, don't you think? Rias. It's true, well X, I want you to answer me with all sincerity, do you really love Valerie? X was perplexed by that question, but then he turned to look at the girl, who gave him a tender smile when she noticed him looking at him. He closed his eyes and remembered how they often played and got to know each other, but at the same time he was afraid that she would reject him. That was the reason he started seeing other girls, because he knew that way they wouldn't break his heart. All his life he watched his parents' love life and deep down he wanted something like that. X. I'll be honest, I do love her, but I'm afraid she'll reject me. Lavinia. And you Valerie, do you really love Gremory? Valerie. I knew at the moment we met during his training, and even more so when he defeated me, I knew he was my ideal man. Issei. Well Vali, no more needs to be said. Vali. That's right, this commitment was more than settled by both parties. X just smiled sincerely, he knew he didn't want that girl away from him. On the other hand, Valerie took X's hand and approached him. They both looked into each other's eyes and kissed, proving that their childhood love was real. Issei along with Rias went with the boys to congratulate them, but this engagement will be private for the moment, they would make the announcement tomorrow after the rating game. Lavinia. By the way, everything is ready for her. Issei. That's right, starting next week she will start school at the academy, I already spoke with Azazel. Rias. And she'll be able to live here, she'll sleep with her cute fiancé, just like I did with my cute Ice. This last comment left the boys more than red in the face. Vali. That is, no grandchildren until they graduate from college, understood. Both boys, even redder at the thought of babies, nodded. Lavinia. Okay, your things will arrive at this house tomorrow. If you want, you can stay here with your fiancé, and we'll be leaving. Rias. Okay, X, guide Valerie to see where she'll sleep. I'll take advantage of the fact that the others have left. I want to have an afternoon of movies with your father. X. Understood Okasama, let's go Valerie. Valerie. Of course dear, I'll follow you. X's life was going to change radically from being one of the most desirable boys in school to being a committed boy, something that didn't matter to him. Already at night, the other children of Issei along with their wives had arrived at the mansion. Issei told everyone in the room about X's engagement to Valerie. On one side were the other mothers crying with happiness for the engagement of one of their children, who although they were not blood relatives, they loved all of them equally, and it was reflected in the birthday parties for each one, where the gifts kept arriving and were the best. On the other hand, the brothers were shocked to think that X would be the first son engaged, and not to just any girl, but to Valerie, the daughter of his father's rival. On the other hand, her sisters, well, you could feel an aura of jealousy in the room because of the news they were given. A girl had come to take her beloved Oni-chan, it didn't matter if he was perverted, but he was still her beloved brother. Issei. Well tomorrow we will have a banquet after the rating game, taking advantage of the fact that we are all here I will give you some news. Shido. What's up, father? Yes Odo-san tell us what news. I hope it's nothing bad. They said the last two sons of Issei who were not at the afternoon meeting, they were Naruto Hyoudou and Ikki Hyoudou, sons of Issei whose mothers were Yasaka and Yura. Issei. Well, the day after the banquet your mother and I will go on vacation, so Kurenai and Shido will be in charge, understood. The boys were just shocked to hear that. All the boys. But this news all the residents of the Hyoudou mansion went to sleep to give way to the parents' big visit to the academy and later the match between Kurenai and Shido. Chapter 2. Hyoudou vs Hyoudou Part 1. The parents' meeting and the game begins. Mansion Hyoudou. We are in the dining room of the Hyoudou residence, where Issei and his entire family were having dinner and he had already announced his temporary retirement with his mothers. Kurenai. You're serious, father. Issei. That's right, these past few years we haven't been able to have proper time alone with your mothers, so I've already asked for permission to leave not only me, but also your mothers, their positions for a while, and reaffirm our love. At that all of Issei's wives get up and go with him to hug him. Sona. Anada, you know how much we love you, and I've been longing for this time with you. Ikeno. That's true dear, besides it's about time my cute Kurenai had a brother Himejima, don't you think? This comment only made Kurenai exhale in heaviness. Asia. One Sama doesn't think it's better to make a small start today. Rias. I really would like to, especially because we need to talk to you, love. Issei. With me. Irina. That's right, darling, tomorrow is the parents' meeting, and today we'll remind you why you shouldn't take up the offer of some snobby girl who'll harass you tomorrow. This comment made Issei turn pale, because when his wives reaffirmed his place in the harem when they hadn't seen him for weeks it was hard work, now with everyone gathered then. Issei. Dreg, I think I'll need some boosts today. Dreg. Not today, buddy, I want to rest in peace. At that, the girls took Issei in a sudden act as if he were a freshly hunted boar, and together they took him to the main room, leaving Rias and Sona with everyone's children. Sona. Well, Hyoudou, you as the second son along with Kurenai will be in charge after the engagement dinner that we will give for X and Valerie in our absence. Rias. Being the third son, you must be at the command of your king and support him, just like your Athena. X Athena. Understood, Rias Akasama. Rias. By the way, tomorrow Valerie will go with us so you can see X's special class, and that way you can take a tour of the school you will attend. Valerie. Thank you for the invitation, Okasama. Rias. Okay, guys, we're leaving. We don't want to be left out of the conversation with your father. I'm surprised you have the energy after what happened. Rias didn't finish speaking as she covered her mouth and thought about what she was going to say. Sona. So today you were alone with Mayonada, just for that reason you will be the last to speak. Said Sona, who ran to the main room. Rias. No, Sona, wait, it's not what you think, let me receive Issei's love once again. Rias also ran out to the room, leaving the children with a drop of sweat. Robertina. I just hope they put up the sound barrier now so you can't hear anything. Naruto. Why do you say that? She just turned blue in the face as she remembered the day she was passing by that room and her mother had forgotten to put up the barrier. All that could be heard were Ravel's moans and screams as she wrote her husband. Robertina. You don't want to know. Karenia. Well, it's better to go to sleep, tomorrow will be a long day and we mustn't disappoint our parents with tomorrow's game. Hyoudou. That's right, it's time to go. By the way, Kurenai, I must talk to you, it's something personal and that concerns you. Kurenai. You can tell what it is. Hyoudou. It has to do with her. Kurenai already had an idea of who was talking, it was a girl from her brother's entourage, so they went to Hyoudou's room. All the siblings went to their rooms trying to avoid passing by their father's room. X and Valerie were holding hands going to the Retide's room to rest, since today would be their first night together as an official engaged couple. Upon arriving at his room where the color red was more than present, X took out of a chest, somewhat expensive for its design, all the gifts that Valerie dedicated to him and placed them on a table. He wanted to show her that whatever she gave him he always valued it and kept it as if it were a treasure. The girl just cried with joy, knowing that she had not been wrong in choosing him as her partner, she just hugged him by the neck and began to kiss him. Both boys were lying down giving each other a rather deep kiss, when the lack of air was more than evident they separated leaving a trail of saliva that connected their lips. Valerie. T'amo X Gremory. X. And I love you, Valerie Lucifer. They simply turned off the light to magically change into each other and sleep in bed together for the first time. On the other hand, Kurenai and Hyoudou were in the Sitri's room, they had arrived to talk about a matter involving their older brother. Kurenai. Well, tell me what you want. Hyoudou. Well, it's simple, in 3 days your brother will accompany me on a double date with 2 of my pieces. Issei's first son was left with a stone face at what he heard because his theory was true. Kurenai. Don't tell me, her again. Hyoudou. Yeah, I don't know what you did to Alice, but you really made her fall in love with you. Kurenai. But it was just a friendly match, how could he have fallen in love with me? Hyoudou. I don't know, but Uncle Kiba and Aunt Tsubaki are waiting for your answer, that's why it's the double date, so you can decide whether to go out with her and start your relationship or not. Kurenai. And why are you coming? Hyoudou. Easy brother, for 2 reasons, she is my horse, and as her king I must watch over her happiness, and the second is that Nakaruru wants to see that her best friend is happy, and since she is my girlfriend, I must be there with her. Hyoudou blushed as he said this, since a few months ago he started a relationship with his bishop, Nakaruru Saji, she is the daughter of Genshiro and Rias, who managed to help her overcome a bad love that she went through before they started dating. On the other hand, Kurenai was a little dismayed at how Kiba's daughter had fallen in love with him, well it's not like he disliked the girl, right, but he wanted to get to know her better. Kurenai thought a little about her brother's proposal and looked at a photo of her brother with all his nobility that he had near the nightstand, there she saw Alice with that smile that characterizes her, for a moment she blushed until she received a message on her cell phone. It was her who only sent him a goodnight message, of course as friends according to this, but that message was sent daily, the boy didn't think twice and looked at his brother with a little shame. Kurenai. Okay, I'll go on the date, but don't leave me alone with her during the outing. Shido just nodded, but it was more than obvious that he would do so. Shido. I'll try, but I don't promise anything. Kurenai. Well, then I'm leaving. Saying this, the eldest son got up from the armchair in his brother's room and proceeded to leave, leaving Shido alone, but with a somewhat mischievous smile. Shido. Sorry bro, but she wants to have you alone. At that point, he grabbed his cell phone and proceeded to send several text messages before going to sleep with a smile on his face that his plan, or rather, that of a person, would turn out the way he wanted. Thus ended the night at the Hyoudou residence, with his brothers ready for the events of the next day, and X happily engaged to his longtime friend, and above all with an Issei making the delicious premature before his trip, except for Rias who was tied up for having taken the brunette without warning. Of course, this was just a joke between the women of the Sekiryuutei, who released her last as the imposed punishment. The next day. The new day was beginning, but this one in particular would be special because of the events that would unfold during this time. The children went down to the dining room, where the maids of the place had already prepared the Hyoudo's breakfasts and lunches. Normally this is prepared by their mothers, except for Zen, Shin, Kurabura and Shiraguki. Well, this was because their parents and the kitchen did not get along very well. But the others wondered why their mothers didn't come down even to join them for breakfast. Well, a maid who went to wake up the masters of the mansion came out with a serious but blushing face, since inside the room there was a brunette sleeping with hickeys and bites on top of a redeed, without having separated from, well you know, next to two brunettes next to their arms hugging each other, and in bed the other wives of this one asleep with a smile of satisfaction and covered in you know again. The maid only limited herself to saying that they were still asleep while she continued blushing. The children weren't going to ask, but they already had an idea, so they finished breakfast and went straight to the academy, where they had to prepare everything for the parents' visit, and especially those who were members of the student council, had to put everything in order so that it would be a peaceful visit. A few hours passed, and the students' parents gradually arrived, heading to their children's classrooms. The student council ensured everything was in order and, above all, set an example of how a student at Kuoh Academy should behave. In the hallways the conversations between the parents were calm and pleasant, but suddenly everything fell silent when they saw a group of people arrive at the entrance of the academy. This alerted Athena, which meant one thing: her father had just arrived. The screams of the single mothers were immediate, and they all worshipped the name of the brunette, who, to them, is the hero who saved both worlds. The brunette came with almost all of his wives, except for one redeed who stayed behind waiting for her future daughter-in-law. They would arrive together. Mother 1. Kaiaya is Issei-sama. Mother 3. Please include me in your harem. Mother 2. Make me 2 children like yours. These were the screams that the single mothers gave throughout the school when they saw him pass by, something that the girls did not take well, and Asia, who was the wife in turn having the brunette by her side, simply kissed him in front of them and gave the single mothers a sharp look. Asia. Ai-san is just ours. I thought about it while watching the other mothers cry with jealousy, while the other girls in the harem only nodded at Asia's demonstration to show that they take extra care of the brunette. But this was not going to stay like that, since the single mothers who wanted to be in the harem were going to talk to the girls, and this was seen by their sons, so they only limited themselves to taking their mothers to their respective classrooms, except for X and Irie who were together. The redeed was surprised that his mother did not arrive, so he went with the older brunette. X. Father, why hasn't Okasama arrived? Issei. Well, she was left waiting for Valerie, who still hadn't finished getting ready for you, son. Remember, this is her first time at this school, and she wants to leave a good impression with you as your fiancé. This made her blush a little, but what she didn't realize was that several girls heard the conversation, and when they went to the fan club that X had at school, all they heard was a scream. Girls. What? X Gremory has a fiancé. Everyone at school, upon hearing that scream, looked naively at X, who also heard that scream, and simply hid behind his sister so that no one would see him, while his father just kept a corny smile because he knew that his school life would be more fun. The bell rang, and it was the indication for the special class of the students along with their parents. An advantage that Issei's children had was that they were together in the same classroom, which meant they shared the same year. For example, Shido and Karinia were in 3 years, along with Kiba's daughter and Gaspar's son, and Saji's eldest son, followed by X, the church trio, Athena, Naruto, Ikki. Elmwidge and Robertino are in 2nd grade along with some of Saji's children, and in 1st year were the rest of the children of both dragons. So when the boys' mothers went to see them, especially those in the 2nd year, all eyes were on Issei, who first went with his 3rd-year sons, where Akeno and Sona already had their cameras more than ready to start recording their children, while these two just limited themselves to not paying attention. The class was about history, which were questions that the teacher asked and the students answered. Most of the young people made mistakes because of the nerves their parents caused when seeing them in class, but the Hyoudou brothers answered without any problem. This caused sighs of love from their classmates and discomfort from their classmates. When the third-year class ended, Issei went to his second commitment, which was to go to the second-year class, while Luceno and Sona went with their children to their respective clubs, since they would start checking out today's game. The brunette was heading towards the living room when he found his redeeded wife, who was already coming with a Valerie dressed up a little more youthfully, but without losing those airs of belonging to the Lucifer family. Rias. Honey, we're here. Issei. Okay my love, let's go into the classroom to see our ex. Valerie, pay attention to this class, since you will go through the same thing next year. Valerie. You're Otu-sama. Upon entering the room, everyone looked at the beautiful Valerie who was entering the room, since she gave the air of belonging to royalty and well, this was due to the loving education that Lavinia gave her daughter while she was growing up. While she was the center of attention, Issei was surrounded by all his wives, and Asia grabbed her husband's hand again as a sign of not letting go. The second-year class was about making a piece with sculpting clay, which brought back great memories for the brunette and the redeed, since on that occasion, Issei had made a sculpture of her that caught the attention of everyone in the class and was one of the first gifts he dedicated to her. The class began and all of the redeed's brothers, along with their classmates, had already started their work. The church trio had already decided to make their father in the Oxa form, so they divided up the work and thus unite him at the end. The others recreated the fight with his rival Volley, or figures of him in his DxD form, with an imposing drag on his back. Well, as such, the brothers already knew about this class, so they met to discuss the works and do them together, but X was not told as punishment for having spied on the girls and not attending that meeting, so he was blank and not knowing what to do. Teacher. Remember, you can do anything or anything that gives you a happy memory. X closed his eyes and began to imagine any moment that came to him. It was the first thing he would do. Suddenly an image came to his mind of himself younger with a Valerie who was on the floor and this one on top of him. It was the moment in which he defeated her and they knew that they would always be together. He was suddenly brought out of his thoughts when he heard his teacher's voice. Professor. EX Gremory, this is beyond impressive. At that, X looked back at where the dough was in his hands and in front of him appeared a figurine of X and Valerie having their first kiss. This made the other mothers of the redeed only put on a smile of happiness. Rias also smiled and louder when she remembered that she did the same as her husband, but what they didn't notice is that the albino only had a smile of love and with tears in her eyes of happiness when she saw that she chose that moment. At the end of the class, the other students were impressed by the Hyoudou brothers' sculptures. They were well-made sculptures of their father in his most powerful forms and the details of the armor stood out. However, the albino took his fiancée's hand and gave her the sculpture as a gift before kissing her. What they didn't notice was that a fan club member took the photo at the time. Finally, the eldest brunette went to the last class of his children who were in first year. Their Kuroko was the one who defended him tooth and nail like the wife she is when she saw that other mothers and even older sisters of the students had gone to greet and flirt with the brunette. Here the class was math, where Kaneko's daughter excelled by giving the answers quickly, while Kuroka's daughter, like her mother, was not good at studying, which made her nervous as she turned to look at her father, but instead of having a serious look, Issei gave her the calm look he had to calm things down. This made his daughter only nod with happiness, knowing that her father would not say something bad to her. Classes had ended and the entire family except for Shido and Karinia was at the main entrance of the academy building chatting pleasantly. At that moment Asia, Zenobia and Irina's attention was caught by a voice. Girls, it's really you. And look, the perverted beast is here too. The family turned to see the voices calling them and could not believe what they saw. Asia. Look, Zenobia is Kiryu-san. Irina. And darling, isn't that Motohama Connor, is it? Kiryu. Of course it's us, but I'm surprised to see them all together. I usually find Asia alone or it's her daughter. Motohama. I'm surprised to see the great pillar of the factions at school. Issei. Enough, it's just the title, remember that I don't feel that way, and besides, you're my friend, right? Motohama. Right, hey, let me introduce you to my daughters. In front of their parents were two dark-haired girls. Motohama. She is Sumareko Motohama and her sister Am Motohama. Both girls bowed in greeting. Sumareko Am. Nice to meet you, Hyoudou family. When they saw the whole family they were impressed to see Zenovia's and Irina's children respectively. The girls just went to take their hands and greeted them more personally. Sumareko. It's a pleasure to meet you, tell me your name. He said while taking the blue-haired boy's hand, who simply blushed at this action. Zen. And nice to meet you, I'm Zen Korta. On the other hand, Am stood in front of the brown-haired boy who looked straight into each other's eyes. Shin. Nice to meet you, my name is Shin Shido. Am. How gentlemanly, my name is Am, feel free to call me by my name. Shin. Same here. The others watched as they quickly conquered the girls, even though they didn't show it, but one blonde sister was more than jealous when she saw this. Irie. I won't let them take my brothers. Saying this she was about to go to them, but she was stopped by Ravel's daughter. Robertina. Wait Irie, let them establish communication, also this happened the same way when Ryu asked you out, or don't you remember we had to intervene my dear Belle and I, so that there wouldn't be a fight between dragons. Irie. That's true, okay, I'll give them a chance this time. The boys continued talking with their new companions in a calm manner, while Issei and Ika heard two voices that were familiar to them. Just look at that, the perverted beast and the perverted girl together once again. Love, I won't let you get close to them, you understand. Kiryu. But if they are the odd couple that was made at the end of the year, I can't believe they are here, Mitsuda and Murayama. Those who had arrived were Issei's other friend, who was previously bald since he shaved his head, and next to him was his beautiful brunette wife, who used to hit him with her kendo sword when they were at the academy together. Issei. Wow, it's been a while since I saw you guys, tell me how you've been. Murayama. I am happy with my husband reforming him from the perverted life he had. Mitsuda. But what are you saying, love, if our dear son came from that perverted life, or not champion? He said as a brown-haired boy with a serious look arrived. Calm down father, it's a pleasure to meet the pillar of the factions, my name is Sia Mitsuda. The boy bowed and then saw a purple-haired girl who came a little closer to greet him. Athena. Hello, my name is Athena Hyoudou, nice to meet you. Sia. The pleasure is all mine. Mitsuda. By the way, Issei, how are the preparations for today's game going? Issei. Well, it seems that the game between my sons attracted a lot of attention both in the human world and among the factions, because from what I know, everything is ready, we just have to wait for nightfall. By the way, everyone is invited, since after the game we'll be having dinner in the name of my son X, who got engaged yesterday, and we want to celebrate. The four friends were more than grateful for that invitation. Motohama. Then it's best to go, if it's a formal dinner it's best to go buy something nice for the occasion. Mitsuda. Then we'll see you tonight for the game, guys. Kiryu. Girls, we talked for a while at dinner. The four parents had said goodbye to their friends and they and their children went together towards the shopping center. Issei. Okay, everyone else go to their respective entourages, from this moment the game will begin with the formation of your strategies with your respective kings. Rias. We'll be with you guys, let's go to the club. Ingvlid. Athena, Naruto and Ikki, let's go to the council to meet with their king. All of Issei's children nodded and went to their respective clubs with their mothers, only Issei and the former nun stayed in place since the blonde was holding her husband's hand. Asia. Love, what will you do? Issei. I'll go with Azazel to see the preparations at the city stadium. Asia. I understand, but don't go to a whorehouse to wait for the game, or else. Issei. Don't worry. The brown-haired man pulled her closer with his hug around the waist to have her as close as possible. Issei. You know very well that you are everything I loved and I don't need anyone but you. Then they both gave each other a deep kiss in the middle of the hallway. By reflex Asia lifted her foot as if it were that of a princess when receiving that kiss. When they finished they both separated and looked into each other's eyes. Asia. Okay, see you in the afternoon. That said, everyone went to their respective activities where the kids were preparing everything for the game between the two families. On the other hand, Issei arrived at the stadium to see the final touches of the fight between his children and take advantage of the time to talk with Azazel while they drank some sake. Time skip. It was 6 in the afternoon and we were in the center of Kuoh, to be more exact in the Hyoudou Issei Stadium, which is named after the pillar of the factions, and at the entrance was a statue of the brown-haired boy with a smile when he was young and giving a sign of love and peace. At the top of that stadium was a figure of a large red dragon guarding the main entrance. This statue was Drag in his armor when he came out of the sacred gear to fight. In the VIP room of the place were the leaders of the factions who were eager for this game. In the place were Sirzechs along with Seraphil on the part of the demons, Azazel and Baraquiel on the part of the fallen, Michael who represented the angels, Auden with the new leader of the Nordic Vidal, Kuoh the adopted daughter of Issei, and the new leader of the Yokai. Asper along with Valerie Teeps were the new leaders of the vampire faction, and on the part of the Olympians was Apollo, who took the place of Zeus when he got bored. Sirzechs. I can't wait to see my nephews fight and put on a good show. Auden. That's true, we'll see the progress in your training. Baraquiel. You'll see that my grandson will win this game. Seraphil. I don't think so, the winner will be my dear Shido-chan, since I trained him. Kuoh. I support Seraphil-sama, you will see that my brother will give you victory. Asper. By the way, Azazel, that's what the boys asked for in case they won. Azazel just laughed and took out a video camera. Azazel. It will be the usual. All the leaders just stood there with their faces blank, then took out their own video cameras, except for Apollo and Vidal. Serafol. YESSSS. Sirzechs. Hyoudou will be the winner and I will be able to see my ex-Tan do that dance. Vidal. What a change in support, don't you think? Apollo. It's a surprising change. In Issei's VIP box, he was waiting for the match with his wives. On his right side was the main woman of his harem and on his left was his entourage queen. Akeno placed her op-eye on top of his head while Asia, being her turn, was on his lap. The others surrounded him while looking at the stadium. On the other hand, in the other box was Saji with his harem and next to them was Kiba with two girls who managed to conquer his heart, one was Tsubaki on his right side and the other was a girl who is a mystery. Suddenly the sound that gave the place atmosphere fell silent when I saw that in the middle of the stadium was a black-haired boy who was going to referee the match. He is well known for having helped out on his territory when I needed it most. Serekh. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, today we will begin this exhibition battle between the Hyoudou Himejima and Hyoudou Sitri entourages. At that, both groups approached the center of the stadium while the list of members of each group appeared on the screens. Tsukido Hyoudou Himejima. King. Kurenai Himejima. Queen. Gremory. Brook. Irie Hyoudou. Brook. Free Knight. Zen Quarter Knight. Roy Pendragon Bishop. Helmwich. Bishop. Ernestine. Pawn x4. Robertina Hyoudou. Pawn x2. Kurobura Taojo. Pawn x2. Shiraguki Taojo. Follow Hyoudou Sitri. King. Hyoudou Sitri. Queen. Athena Hyoudou. Brook. Ryu Saji. Brook. Iki Tsubasa Knight. Alice Kiba Knight. Bel Saji Bishop. Nakaruru Saji. Bishop. Alucard Vladi. Pawn x4. Naruto Hyoudou. Pawn x2. Natsu Saji. Pawn x2. Libra. In the center of the stadium were both entourages staring at each other with determination since they were like a complete family to both of them. Serekh. Well, if we're all ready, please go to your respective places to start this meeting. Hyoudou. Good luck bro, but I want to see your dance now. Kurenai. The only ones who will dance gracefully tonight will be you. The rest of the entourage looked at each other defiantly, although that stipulated that on the other side was her romantic partner or her suitor in Kurenai's case. After the handshake, each of them went to their respective places. But this greeting, the game between the two brothers began, hoping their plans would work. Members of the Hyoudou Himejima entourage. How about I come to give the members of each of the entouragements the next chapter that they will play in the rating game. Ray. Kurenai Himejima, Hyoudou Issei Akeno Himejima. Age. 18 years. Queen. Gremory, son of Issei and Rias. Age. 17 years. Tori. Irie Hyoudou, Hyoudou Issei Asia. Age. 17 years. Knight. Zen Quarta, son of Issei and Zenobia. Age. 17 years. Knight. Roy Pendragon, son of Issei and Lefay. Age. 16 years. Alphal. Helmwich, daughter of Issei and Roswisei. Age. 16 years. Bishop. Ernestine, daughter of Issei and Ilmenhild. Age. 16 years. Pawn x4 piece. Robertina Hyoudou, daughter of Issei and Ravel. Age. 17 years. Peon x2. Kurobura, Hyoudou Issei Kuroka. Age. 16 years. Peon x2. Shirayuki, Hyoudou Issei Shirin. Age 16 years. Members of the Hyoudou Sitri entourage. Today I come to introduce you to the second enter of the Hyoudou family. Ray. Hyoudou Sitri, Hyoudou Issei Sana Sitri. Age. 18 years. Queen. Athena Leviathan, daughter of Issei and Ingvalid Leviathan. Age. 17 years. Tori. Ryu Saji, Hyoudou Genshuru Saji Aruko Nomura. Age. 17 years. Tori. Iki Hyoudou, Hyoudou Issei Tsubasa. Age. 17 years. Knight. Alice Kiba, daughter of Hyoudou Kiba and Shinra Tsubaki. Age. 16 years. Caballero. Bel Saji, Hyoudou Genshuru Saji Momo Hanakai. Age. 18 years. Alphal. Nakaruru Saji, Hyoudou Genshuru Saji Tama Meguri. Age. 17 years. Bishop. Alucard Teeps, son of Gaspar Vladi and Valery Teeps. Age. 16 years. Peon x4. Naruto Hyoudou, Hyoudou Issei Yasaka. Age. 17 years. Peon x2. Natsu Saji, Hyoudou Genshuru Saji Ryakusaka. Age. 16 years. Chapter 2 is already being written so you can be patient with me X. Place your bets, who will win this game. Kurenai. Shido. Die. See you in the next chapter. Chapter 3. Hyoudou vs Hyoudou Part 2. Love Between Towers. Estadio Hyoudou Issei. We met at the stadium named after our beloved chestnut tree, where both teams were more than ready to begin the game between the sons of that hero who could have ended the war against the Chaos Brigade. In Issei's private box, he was more than attentive to see his children's progress, since, although he pampered them a little more than their mothers, he was also strict when it came to training and wanted to see their results. Rias. This kind of games brings back that beautiful encounter where you confess to me, no darling. She said as she leaned on Issei's shoulder, who gave her a kiss on the forehead. Issei. It's true, in that game I awakened the Cardinal Crimson in front of your cousin and declared the great love I have. Rias. At that moment I just wanted to tackle you and kiss you with all my being, but we were in the middle of a game and you made me blush with those words. Bekeno. Ara, remembering how your love began, Anada, don't say that in front of me because it makes me want to steal you right now and go to the private bathroom in the box to remind you how much I love you too. Issei turned red at that statement as he remembered doing something similar in that bathroom with one of his wives. Ravel. Honey, did you remember that time? He told her while pulling her ear, but it was red from the same thing. Issei. Yes, that time you tricked me into thinking it was an Oppi dragon meeting. Ravel. And you don't want to repeat it? I told her as I released her grip and began to flirtatiously caress her cheek. Asia. Akeno-san, Ravel-san, we'll have a chance starting tomorrow on our trip, now's the time to support our children. Zenobia. It's true, I want to make more strong babies with ice, but first let's see how our children win. Sona. Sorry, but my son and his entourage will be the winners. Akeno. Ara, you sound very sure of that, Sona. Sona. Of course, since my son is a great king and he will prove it in this game. Rias. If you're sure, how about a bet? Sona. Tell me what you're betting on. She said, intrigued, but for some reason she already knew where this conversation was going. Rias. The one who loses will be subjected to Yuri things, so that my love is more than excited when we start with that, how about it? Sona. Are you sure? Last time you came quickly and you moaned a lot and you were sensitive in that part when it was your turn. Rias. I trust in my son, he will give victory to Himejima's entourage. Sona. I'll try, but don't back out. Bekeno. Rias, I'm more than ready for Sona's punishment. He said, licking his lips. Isaka. You'll see, Sona, when we win Rias will come as many times as possible when I caress her with my beautiful fur. Issei, who had several plugs in his nose, could only imagine the scenario of what his wives were saying. Issei. You know that the only one who will remain dry will be me, right? Irina. Darling, don't worry about that. I'll pray to Michael Sama to give you the energy to hold on. Ingvlid. Let's just watch the match, okay? Tomorrow will be that wonderful event. She said, all red because of this conversation, even though she was already an adult and had her daughter, she was still innocent, like Asia was until Akeno and Rias took that away from her. Returning to the teams, they were at their strategist stations, paying attention to the rules of this combat. Serekh. Well, as you know, this game will be played with dice. Both kings will have a die at their station, which they will roll, and the sum of these will determine the pieces they can use for combat. Now, we'll look at the values of each piece. First, the queen is worth 9 points. The rook is worth 5 points. Bishops and knights are worth 3 points. And the pawn is worth 1 point. Everyone watched the value of each piece on the screens closely and simulated rolling the dice. Serekh. As you may have seen, the pawn is worth 1 point, so the participants Naruto and Robertina have a value of 4 points when rolling the dice, given in the hypothetical case that they rolled a value of 3, the only ones that can participate are the knights, bishops and pawns that are worth 2 points. In the stands, all the boys' friends looked closely at each of the rules. The one who stood out the most was Shin, who was with his new friends, the Motohama sisters and Mitsuda's son. Sumereko. So if that amount is thrown, the only one who can fight is Zen, right? Shin. That's right, this is the system they've given for this game. At that, AM took Shin's hand to get his attention. AM. And tell me, Shin, why don't you participate in these types of games? Shin. That's because I'm an angel and I belong to the Heaven faction. In other circumstances like the Azazel Cup that is held every 4 years, I participate in my brother Kurenai's team, but this is a raiding game of the underworld, so only the pieces can participate. Sumereko. So in that case they get 3 only, Zen will go alone. She sounded a little worried in her voice, something that her sister tried to calm her down. AM. Don't worry, you'll see that he won't be easily defeated and he's not the boy you chose to be her. At that moment, Sumereko, all red, covered her sister's mouth with her hands so that she wouldn't say anything else. Shin. I'm so jealous, they already have someone who loves them, and Irie is already being courted by that damn Saji. Am heard this and took Shin's arm to put it between her breasts and look into his eyes. Am. Don't worry, I want to get to know you better, and I hope we can be more than friends in the future. Returning with Serekh. Serekh. Now, let's determine the value of each king. They have already been evaluated by the system of this game, and in a few moments we will know with what score they can participate. On the screen you see the image of Kurenai next to the number 10. Serekh. The king of the entourage Himejima has a value of 9 points. This value is impressive. Now let's see the value of his adversary and brother. Suddenly the screen changed the photo to that of his brother Shido, who next to him had the number 11. Serekh. Wow, there's only 1 point difference between the two brothers. In Issei's VIP room, he was impressed by the minimal difference between each of his children. Issei. Wow, they are strong, the difference between them is minimal. Akeno. Ara, how strong my son came out. I know that with his guidance and the plans of the beautiful Robertina, they will win the game. Sona. Don't get so worked up, my son will be the winner of this. Returning to the arena. Serekh. As a final point and according to the rules of this type of games, if a participant has just participated, they cannot be chosen again, they must wait at least one round before they can return to the fight. One more thing, Phoenix Tears will be banned in this game because a team has 2 healers, so the king's strategic ability will be seen. The boys were shocked by this comment, but accepted it. At that I raised both hands to the audience. Serekh. Okay, let's start this game, kings please go to the die station and make the first throw. Kurenai and Shido went to the throwing area, took the die that was inside the cup and dropped it, both of them not taking their eyes off each other in a challenging mode. Serekh. Well, Kurenai got a 5 and Shido rolled the number 3, so the first duel will be worth 8 points. The barrier was created in front of each player's area so that the other player could not see from his position. Serekh. As you can see, a barrier has been placed on them that does not allow us to see or hear the plans that each of the kings have. They will have 3 minutes to send their warrior or warriors. The 3 minutes of planning passed, where only the expressions of each of the entourage members were observed, but not the mouth movements that each of them said. Serekh. Well, time's up, participants please place themselves in the transportation area to begin our first fight. In the Kurenai area, he looked at the first 3 who were ready for the encounter. Kurinia. Well, you already know what the strategy is. The boys just gave a thumbs up in acceptance. Combat dimension. We find ourselves in the first combat dimension where the first participants appeared for the fight. The stage was a replica of Stonehenge. Roy. Okay girls, you know how it is, Shiryuki you stay with Helmwich and you will be my support from a distance, understood? Shiryuki. Clara Roy Nai. Helmwich. Don't worry, brother, I can heal you from a distance in case you're in trouble, and I can also provide support for these types of fights. In front of them, a transportation light shone, revealing 3 people. L. Wow, who would have thought I'd be facing my cousin in the first fight? Natsu. We have come to give Shido Sitri's entourage their first victory, just as my father once did. Nakaruru. You'll see that with my beloved's plan this will be quick. Referee. Okay, if everyone is ready, let's start. Let the ambient music play. Roy. Let's go ruler. Roy had summoned his fragment of Excalibur which was obtained thanks to his master and Uncle Arthur. L. If so, let's go nightmare. Releasing the seal on his sword at his side, he wielded it as if he wanted to end it all in one attack. They both ran from their fighting position and suddenly a gust of wind occurred around them. This was caused by the impact of both swords. Without detaching themselves from the attack they had launched, they looked at each other closely. Roy. I expect more from the boy who dared to make my beautiful sister Robertina fall in love with him. L. You'll see what I'm capable of. At that point they separated by jumping backwards, then took a run up and threw one against the other. A worthy fight could be seen between both knights since while one gave a thrust with his sword, the other blocked the attack and returned his audacity in wanting to attack the other. On the other hand, both pawns who specialized in magic had already charged their magical power. The fastest was Shiryuki who was already in her Nekomata mode. Shiryuki. Roy Nai is ready. Roy. Understood. At that Roy tried to cut Bell with his sword, who managed to retreat, but at that moment a beam of Senjutsu hit him and sent him a few meters back from his original position. Roy. Okay, go on with that, I'll go get the healer. At that Roy spread his dragon wings and flew straight to Nakaruru, but before he could reach her he received a rather large fireball. Natsu. Don't forget about me. With fire in his hands, he began to throw several punches, which Roy dodged, but as he dodged the last punch, he felt something on his back. It was one of the columns of the place where he was, and he saw that Natsu was already in front of him. Natsu. It's over. Suddenly the pink-haired boy flew away due to being hit by the water that the Valkyrie had caused. Helmwich. Now defeat him. Roy. Sure. At that Roy ran to where Natsu was, somewhat weak from the water attack he had received. He jumped in a way to bury his sword in a non-vital point, but enough to kill him, if not to take him out of the game. Natsu managed to react and moved from the spot, leaving Roy with his sword buried, to which he prepared his hammer blow with fire included. Roy in one movement drew his sword and fell to the ground to turn his body and position the weapon towards Natsu's shoulder, which caused him to be impaled on Pendragon's sword and begin to bleed, causing him to withdraw from the game. Roy. Good fight, but you're still very impulsive. The pawn withdraws from Shido Sitri's team. It was heard inside the battlefield, as in the stadium, Natsu's withdrawal from the fight. Shido only remained with a serious look, since he did not like his friends and family to suffer during the fights. Back to the battlefield. L was stunned to see his brother being defeated, so he ran to slash him with his sword, but he forgot in the moment of the battle that he was already at a disadvantage. Shiryuki. I won't allow it. At that he launched Senjutsu energy against his rival, but he managed to dodge it. The moment Roy felt Bell's presence, they both continued their fight, their swords colliding and creating sparks from each of their clashes. On the other hand, Shido's bishop was left alone, but that was no impediment to continuing the fight. She, like Shiryuki, fought with energy in the palm of her hand, which went directly against the Valkyrie who had been left alone. Nakaruru. It's my chance. Creating a large ball of energy in his hand, he launched himself at Karinia's bishop, but what he didn't count on was that Shiryuki had come to defend her sister. Shiryuki. Let's fight you and me. The fight between the pawn and the bishop had begun, both had gathered energy in their hands and began to fight directly. The blows Shiryuki threw were dangerous, and it was noticeable when seeing how Nakaruru had received one in the stomach, which caused her to spit blood from her mouth. Suddenly the Nekomata flew out of the place, after receiving a blow to the jaw from the girl, who was still bent over from that blow. Nakaruru. Never leave your opponents in that state or they can hit you hard. At the stadium, Saji was more than happy with the progress his daughter had made in these days of training. Saji. I'm surprised at how quickly he learned to catch his breath after taking such a huge hit. Tomo. Yeah, let's remember that time Shirin hit you for taking Hyoudou to that whorehouse bar you called his bachelor party. She angrily said it, since at that time the wedding between them was about to happen the next day, and Saji took Issei with the pretext that it was for the brown-haired boy that farewell. Of course both girls knew the truth, but the one who got the worst of it was the bearer of Vitra, since not only Shirin and Tomo had punished him, but also his first wife who was none other than Momo. The three of them gave him such a beating that the next day that the wedding was the boy arrived with a crutch and still happily married Tomo. Saji. Please forgive me, and this time I made it up to you in the best way possible. That made Tomo blush at what she said, and she simply dropped her oppai on Saji's head. Tomo. Okay, but you'll make it up to me again for reminding me of this event. He told her in a lustful voice. Saji only moved his head, which caused her to let out a small moan of pleasure as she felt her oppai move due to the movement her partner made. Returning to the battlefield. Shiryuki had recovered from that blow, and the fist fight between the two began again, using magic in her hands. Punches and kicks were seen being dodged within the fight, but both suddenly stopped due to the announcement. From Kurenai Himejima's team a knight retires. From Shido Sitri's team a knight retires. Both girls turned to see where the boys' fight was, but all they could see was that both were on their knees and with a pose of having given the final blow to their opponent while they began to be illuminated, indicating that they were removed from that match until both fell to the ground and were completely removed. Shiryuki. Well, this dance is over, promotion gentlemen. Saying this, her speed increased, but Nakaruru didn't see that the albino was going to finish her off with a blow. She only felt the moment when she flew towards a rock and became stuck in it. From Shido Sitri's team one bishop retires, the winner of the first match goes to Karinia Himejima's team. Helmwich ran with his sister to give her first aid and congratulate her for that fight, and then they were transported to Kurenai's area, who was already waiting for them. Kurenai. Well done girls, this made Roy's sacrifice worth it. Helmwich. But did you see what happened? Kurenai. Yes, both had already decided to end this fight, so they told each other to give their best shot, and so it was, which caused both to succumb, but this shows that they are gentlemen of all honor. The stadium cheered the names of the members who participated in the first match, but the one that stood out the most was Shirin's little daughter, who blushed upon hearing such support. At that, the voice of the one supervising the fight sounded throughout the stadium. Seryerg. Okay, let's start the second round, please I ask the kings to go to the dice area and roll it. Both Kurenai and Shido had rolled their dice, resulting in 5 points, because the long-haired black-haired boy got 1 point, while the boy with glasses got 4 points. Seryerg. Well, we have obtained a 5, please king start with your strategy, you have 3 minutes. As in the first round, they were again covered by the barrier and only the groups inside that place were visible. 3 minutes passed and both participants had already been transported to the location where the second fight would take place. Combat zone. We found ourselves on what appeared to be the roof of a Japanese castle, and a young man with brown hair appeared, wearing a sleeveless judo-style suit and a headband. Ryu. Wow, I never thought I'd face you like this, Irie-chan. On the other side, Asia's daughter had appeared, putting on combat gloves and wearing a purple skirt, underneath she had black lycra shorts ready to go into combat. Irie. Oh my love, Ryu-kun is here, if it were another scenario I would run to kiss you, but this time, I will be the one who wins. Referee. Fine if both are ready. Ryu. Wait a moment. Everyone fell silent when they saw that Ryu had stopped the start of the fight. The boy began to walk towards the blonde who kept looking at him with determination, then he took her by the waist and gave her a small kiss that she gladly accepted. Ryu. Irie, let's make this fight more exciting. What do you think about the loser doing whatever the winner tells him to? Irie. Sounds good to me. At that point, both of them returned to their positions to begin the fight between them. Referee. Okay, if there won't be another interruption, start. Let the music play again. Both of them spread their dragon wings and flew to collide their fists. Irie began to launch several combos of blows to the brown-haired man's face, but he blocked them easily, to which he responded with a series of blows, but Irie dodged them quickly, in that Irie crouches down, and with her foot, she kicks him which caused Ryu to fall to the ground. The girl took advantage of this and went on top of him. She began to deliver blows to his face that were blocked because Ryu protected himself with his arms. Suddenly Ryu used his legs to subdue the girl with a lock, thus preventing her from using her hands to continue hitting, and pinned her to the floor by taking one of her arms. The girl began to feel pain in her arm, she looked for a way to free herself from that hold, so with her strength, she managed to stand up and leave the boy hanging on her arm, to then fall and hurt him with the fall, although that caused her arm to be affected. Ryu released Irie from his grip as he was slammed to the ground, while the girl stood up and jumped back while adjusting her arm, since it was damaged by the blow. In Issei's VIP room we see Asia who looked worried at her daughter for the tremendous effort she made. Asia. I hope Irie-chan is okay. Issei. Don't worry, this is just training. He said with a smile as he saw that both boys were just testing each other's skills. Returning to the arena. Ryu got back up from the ground after the tremendous blow he received and got into a fighting position. Ryu. Wow Irie, I never thought you would do that, I thought that with my ki I had already subdued you, but I was wrong, well it's time for you to see my new technique. At that the boy joined his hands and a ball of magical energy began to form inside them. I know it's Kai, but here it will be demonic energy. The girl looked at that technique carefully, suddenly. Ryu. Estalisto, Hadouken. At that he pushed his palms in the direction where the girl was and she just watched as a high-speed blue flash hit her chest, which caused her to be pushed back by the tremendous energy that the boy gathered. Ryu took advantage of that and flew towards her to begin his combo of punches and legs. He began to hit the girl's stomach as if she were a piece of meat on a kitchen board because she was in a horizontal position, then with a kick he raised her to the sky, then he got on his knees and made a great jump with his fist up hitting the girl's back. In the Karinia area, Zen was more than worried about the attack, but was calmed by Robertina. Robertina. Don't worry, that won't defeat our sister. Zen. You're right, I trust her. In the combat dimension. Ryu was back in a fighting stance as he watched the blonde slowly get back up. She started to clean her mouth because she spat out blood from tremendous blows. Ryu. I have to admit you're strong, my dear, the demons we hunt fall to this combination. Irie. Well that demonstration was good, but now it's my turn. At that Irie flew in front of the boy who was going to receive the blonde with a blow, but suddenly she hit an illusion, which caused the girl to give him a tremendous blow to the ribcage and send him backwards. Suddenly her gloves were covered by her energy and she gave him several blows in the rib. This had an effect on the boy who began to feel great pain. Suddenly he fell to his knees, which Irie took advantage of. First she took his face, cleaned his lips and gave him a tender kiss and then kicked him, throwing him far from where he was, almost to the edge of the roof of the Japanese castle. Suddenly Irie also fell to her knees due to the effort she had made and the blows she had received. Ryu rejoined in considerable pain because the blows with demonic energy had reached several games that were fractured. They both looked at each other, not with anger, but with joy for the fight, since they had known each other since they were children and were attracted to each other during their fighting games. At that, both of them approached each other in pain and held hands. Irie. Well, dear, we have to finish this, but first tell me what you were going to ask me in case I lost. At that Ryu bent down and took out a small box from a pocket dimension in front of Irie. Ryu. It's easy, we've been dating for a while now, and I know that you are the most important person in my life, and I don't want you to leave my side, that's why I want you, Hyoudou Argento, to become my wife when we finish university. The girl began to cry with happiness, this was like with her mother Rias, but instead of a proposal of courtship, it was a marriage proposal. Ryu Saji Nomura, of course I agree to marry you. At that the boy placed a ring on her finger and the girl cried with happiness. On one hand, in the Kurenai area they were more than surprised because of the new engaged couple and their family, but the most surprised was Zen, who of the three of the church trio, she was the first to get ahead of them. Shido was not surprised since he had given permission to his peace and future brother to do this act, which made him happy. While in the stands Shin was more than furious seeing how they wanted to take his sister from his side, but he was stopped by AM since he wanted to skip and go to the combat dimension. Returning to the fight, Irie and Ryu had kissed after sealing their engagement, but when it ended they separated and stared at each other. Ryu. Okay honey, it's time to end this fight. Irie. You're right, dear, it's time to end this fight. At that, both already tired ran against each other, suddenly Irie launched herself headfirst, and with her hands the ground spun on its axis, and with her legs open in compass, on the other hand, Ryu with the momentum jumped and raising one leg, and with the other for support, made a turn that would cause him to be like a blender. At the moment of impact Ryu received a kick to the jaw and Irie was hit in the chest, which caused both of them to go in different directions and fall to the ground, knocked out by the blow. The light of retreat began to shine on both fighters, but a smile of satisfaction could be seen on their faces. From Kurenai Himimage's team, the rook retires. From Shido Sitri's team, one rook withdraws. But this result the second fight is a tie. The audience was more than excited for that battle, well not all of them since the fan club that went to see Irie's fight was crying that she had already found a boyfriend since very few knew about this relationship. Suddenly Sekeryg's voice sounded again in the stadium. Sekerygh. Well let's start with the third match, kings please roll the dice. The dice together showed 4 dots. Sekerygh. Well you have 3 minutes to decide who will go to battle. Once again, the cameras showed the teams seeing themselves in that space, only to stop broadcasting when they learned who the participants were. Combat Zone. In the combat area that resembled the Asaka courtyard in his temple, only 3 people appeared, 2 on one side and another alone. Gurubura. Who would have thought, the Yakai brothers will face each other in this round, that's something surprising don't you think sister? Shiryuki. I believe it One-sama, let's have fun in this fight Naruto Nai-san. Naruto. Well let's see that Yakai is our father's best son. But this third fight, the fight between the Hyoudou brothers, took place. How will the other fights turn out? Chapter 4. Hyoudou vs Hyoudou Part 3. Naruto's Power. Combat Zone. In the combat area that resembled the Asaka courtyard in his temple, only 3 people appeared, 2 on one side and another alone. Gurubura. Who would have thought, the Yakai brothers will face each other in this round, that's something surprising don't you think sister? Shiryuki. I believe it One-sama, let's have fun in this fight Naruto Nai-san. Naruto. Well let's see that Yakai is our father's best son. Sekerygh. Well, if everyone is ready, start. At that moment the Nekomata sisters brought out their Yakai features, making their beauty stand out more. On the other hand, Naruto only adjusted his headband, something that was very precious to him and that his father noticed. VIP balcony. Issei. Who would have thought he brought it? Asaka, what do you mean dear? Issei. I gave him that band the first few days of training. Flashback. We see a slightly younger Issei who was wearing his typical sweatpants with which he trained. In front of him was a blonde boy who could barely stand up, his face was obviously bathed in sweat. Issei. Okay Naruto-kun, that's all for today's training. Naruto. No father, I can still continue, please allow me to continue a little. Issei. Naruto-kun, don't push yourself too hard, so I'll. Naruto. No, I want to continue, I want to be as strong as your father, I want you to be proud of me. The brown-haired boy just looked at the boy and reminded him of himself when he started his training against Razor. He slowly approached his son with a serious look. Naruto thought he made his father angry with the way he answered him, but what the brown-haired man did reminded him that he wasn't like that, since at that moment the brown-haired man hugged his son. Issei. You will always be my pride, also your brothers, I will always love them because they are my life and the fruit of a beautiful love that I was able to save. Remember that if you feel insecure a hug from your father can cure it. Naruto. Thank you father, but you won't always be with me to give me a hug. Issei. That's true, but. At that the brown-haired boy took out a black band and placed it on his forehead and then tied it. Issei. Whenever you wear this it will be a symbol of my trust. Naruto. Yes, with this band my strength will grow too, I know it. At that moment a girl they both knew had arrived to them. Who knew? It's not fair Otu-san, I want a hug too. Issei. It doesn't matter that you're already 18. Kuoh. It doesn't matter. At that point, the girl tackled her father and brother so that the three of them were on the grass while they hugged each other. Issei. And tell me, that miracle that you came with us, don't tell me that your classes as leader of the yokai are over already. Kuoh. Yes, Otu-san, my mother asked me to come for you for dinner, my other mothers are waiting for you. Issei. Okay Naru-kun, you heard your sister and remember to take care of that band. Naruto. Yes, father. End of flashback. Issei. That band has always been special for his training, but who would say he would use it today? Isaka. Well, your lovely father sees it. At that, the kitsune approached her husband from behind and caressed his cheek with her tail. Isaka. You are a wonderful father to our children. The brown-haired man unconsciously grabs his wife's beautiful tail, which provokes a slight moan of excitement. Rias. Hey you two, this is not the time for that, we'll have all day tomorrow. The two just laughed at that and kissed each other as they continued watching the game. Combat Zone. Shiryuki. Wow, you brought the band that Otu-sama gave you. Naruto. That's right, now it's time to start. At that, both sisters ran to begin the rain of blows that they simultaneously gave to the young Naruto, who put his arms in the shape of an X to avoid being hit in a critical point. Shiryuki began gathering energy in her hand to make her blows more effective and to break Naruto's defenses a little as he was retreating with each blow he received. Meanwhile, Kurobura began gathering blue Senjutsu fire like his mother does when attacking and soon gathered all the energy he could. Kurobura. Ni-chan move. At that, Kaneko's daughter jumped up just as her sister launched the energy she had prepared, resulting in Naruto being damaged by that attack. Naruto. Not bad sisters, I have to admit that your teamwork is formidable, but I better get serious. At that he joined his hands and began to gather energy around him. Everyone in the stadium was attentive to what the son of the former leader of the yokai would do. Naruto. Ah. Suddenly, it was noticed that his yokai energy began to cover him in a layer of yellow, and behind it, a fox tail formed. But the difference from his mother was that this tail was pure energy. Naruto. Okay, I'm ready now. At that point he got into a combat stance, only to disappear from the scene in a moment and crash. From one moment to the next, the little sister yokai flew off to one of the rooms in that mansion that passed itself off as the home of the current leader of the yokai. Kurobura didn't let that go and ran to give a combination of punches and kicks to the blonde, who protected himself with his own energy tail, implying that his defense was good. Shiryuki, who had gotten back on her feet after that blow, ran against her brother and, like the black-haired girl, they began to fight, with the difference that Naruto also returned every blow that his sisters threw. At that moment, the girl's multiple attacks left no room for the blonde to counterattack, or so Naruto led them to believe. In a single movement, the blonde grabbed both girls' legs and threw them directly to the ground. At that, the boy gathered energy in his hand and it began to spin in the palm of his hand. Kurobura tried to get back up but felt that energy that sent her flying in the opposite direction to her brother's hand. The Kurenai pawn has been eliminated. This was the announcement that Seiryu gave when he saw that Kuroka's daughter had left the combat zone. The spectators were excited for that fight between Issei's yokai children. Returning to the fight, Naruto ran towards his sister who was on the ground semi-unconscious. Naruto. Forgive me little sister. He said as he gave her a guillotine kick, knocking out the poor Nekomata. The Kurenai pawn retreat. The third round goes to Shido Hyoudou. At that moment Naruto just sat on a stone on the stage waiting to be sent to his brother's area. The IP room for leaders. In the room everyone was impressed by the power that young Naruto demonstrated in this fight, so they congratulated Kuoh for her brother's victory. How good that my beloved won that fight. Everyone turned to where that voice came from, Kuoh recognized it immediately. Kuoh. Wow, I didn't think you'd get to see the fight Ray-chan. Everyone pampered the Kyoto-style beauty who had arrived in a magic circle, at which Ria's brother spoke up. Sirzechs. Sorry Kuoh-chan, but who is she? Ray. Excuse me for how I arrived, let me introduce myself, my name is Rei Hino, I am the current priestess of Kuoh-sama's temple in the human world, and I am Naruto-sama's fiancé. Everyone in the room was impressed by that revelation. Azazel. But because we didn't know anything about that commitment. Kuoh. Well, the alliance with the Hino family as the new protectors and priestesses of our temple in Kyoto was just made. Rei. And I knew Naruto-sama since childhood, since before Yasaka-sama left Kyoto to live with Issei-sama in Kuoh, Naruto-sama and I played all the time. Ajuka. And does Yasaka-sama know about this engagement? Kuoh. Yes, because Hahoe was the one who gave the approval along with Shichiyu. At that the newcomer bowed to the leaders. Rei. I would like to know if I am allowed to watch the fight from this place. Sirzechs. It's no problem for me. Kuoh. If you stay here, it helps to see the activities of the upcoming festivals in Kyoto. Up to the music. At that moment Seekvaira's voice began to sound through the speakers. Seekvaira. Well, let's start the fourth round of fighting. Please, I ask each king to go to the dice area to find out the score of the next fight. At that moment both Kurenai and Shido rolled the dice. Kurenai rolled a 1, while her brother rolled a 6. Seekvaira. Well, the result of both dice gave 7 points. Rias, please make your strategy for the next fight. In that one, as in the first 3, everything was silenced and their mouths covered so that no information could be passed on. Seekvaira. Well, time's up. Participants, please stand in the transfer area to start this round. Combat zone. We found ourselves on what appeared to be a somewhat old bridge. In front of the bridge there was a somewhat gloomy castle, and next to it a dark lake. What stood out about this scene was that there was a layer of fog covering the entire area. Suddenly, 4 people appeared on the sides of the bridge, 2 on each side. Zen. Okay, let's go with everything. Robertina. Robertina. I will give my all since Papa Sama is watching me and I will show him that I am the best daughter. Alucard. Look what we have here. Alice, the fresh blood of a phoenix. The boy said he was too handsome since his clothing resembled that of a noble vampire. Alice. Calm down Alucard, remember that she is Belkun's girlfriend and if you lay an undue hand on her, both he and my dear Kurenai will kill you. Alucard. I'll try to restrain myself but you know it's tempting to taste that blood. Alice. Then go out with Razor Sama's daughter. Alucard. Well, I have to admit that she is beautiful, just like her mother, and it would also be our second date. Alice just shook her head. In Razor's VIP room, our beloved Yakitori had a vein in his forehead because of that statement. Razor. How dare that brat look at my little princess. Venelana. Calm down dear, but you should already know that our little Henrietta is at the age to date someone, right my girl? At that moment, a girl with purple hair walked over to where her parents were sitting. Henrietta. Mother, what are you saying? How could I notice that handsome and polite damper? Just because he is Gaspar Sama's son doesn't mean I have another date with him. Come on Alucard, Sama win this match. The girl's parents had different reactions. Venelana simply touched her forehead at that comment, while Razor's heart sank when he learned that someone was already courting his beloved daughter. Combat zone. The participants just looked at each other with determination to begin that fight. Referee. Okay, everything is ready, start. All the knights opened a pocket dimension where they took out their weapons. Zen. Let's go to Durandal 3. Alice. To my dear friend. Zen ran at Alice with all his speed, or that's what they wanted to make it seem, since in just 1 second he jumped to one side to face Alucard with that sword, while Alice became a little disoriented when she saw a large flame heading in her direction. Alice. I won't allow it. Saying this, Alice concentrated her sacred energy, which, like her father, manifested in her own sword, making a cut in the air. She managed to destroy that ball of fire. On the other hand, Zen tried to connect against Alucard's body with his sword, but it was difficult since Alucard took out a somewhat light sword, but enough to be able to deflect each attack. Alucard. It's like my father told me, Zenobia-sama taught you well the art of Durandal, but it has a weak point, and that is that you concentrate so much on the power of the sword when you release the blow, but if something deflects it, it will not connect against the enemy. Zen. Damn, it seems you noticed his weakness. In the stands. Everyone watched the battle in surprise, but one girl in particular watched worriedly as her love interest fought. Sumareko. Zen-kun. Shin. Don't worry, you'll see that one way or another you'll be able to counter this fight. Am. You trust your brother, right Shin-kun? Shin. It's true, but you can't take it easy. Sumareko. Why? Shin. Because this is the first time we see Gaspar-san's son fight, he just joined my brother Shido's side. Combat zone. We return to the action that takes place in that scenario. Zen and Alucard fought formidable with their swords, but little by little the blue-haired boy was resenting the disadvantage of manipulating Durandal 3. Alucard. Wow, it seems you're getting tired faster. On the other hand, Alice and Robertina fought in their own style, while the Phoenix threw large balls of fire towards her rival. The blonde destroyed each of the attacks that were aimed at her. This was also planned by Robertina, who noticed that Alice was getting more and more tired with each defense she made by eliminating her attack. Robertina. Well, it's time to end this. Suddenly a large ball of fire was seen all over the place, causing the fog itself to begin to disperse. This was noticed by the damper. Alucard. I won't allow it. From one moment to the next he hit Zen to throw him to the ground, and he transformed into a dark mist like his father does in the form of Baylor. Gathering dark energy in what looked like his hands, he stood in front of Alice, who grew tired of dodging Robertina's attacks. Alucard. Alice, I will be the sacrifice, you must finish this battle, understood? Alice. Okay. At that moment Alucard unleashed all the energy he had gathered to try to stop Robertina's attack, which was getting closer, causing the earth itself to shake. Robertina. Receive the power of the Phoenix Dragon. Alucard. Come on, power of the Clear Night. Both attacks collided, but neither retreated into the sky. What the damper didn't realize was that someone was coming out of the hole where he had been trapped. Zen. This is my chance. Taking Durandal 3 he flew towards Alucard in order to give him a slash from end to end, which would cause his elimination. Alice. I won't allow it. Suddenly the battle between knights began in full flight while behind them, they saw how Robertina's and Alucard's attacks collided against each other without retreating. On the other hand, Alisar and Zen gave each other no respite, thrusts, dodges and retaliatory blows were what was shown in that combat worthy of a gentleman, neither gave any opening for the other to finish against his adversary or so they thought. Suddenly Alucard in his dark form flew to see where Zen and Alice were. Alucard. Now Alice. At that moment he shouted, a group of bats flew towards Zen, which caused him to start covering himself from those attacks, which made him stop enclosing himself in his rival. Smash. It was the sound heard as Alice's sword cut into her rival's chest. Robertina, no Zen. The girl's anger caused the fireball to grow larger, which hit Alucard directly, and he was engulfed in the flames of that attack. Alice. Thank you Alucard. Saying this, the girl flew towards Robertina, with her sword she gave a rain of attacks against her, which made the girl lose consciousness. Kurenai's last pawn has been eliminated. The last knight of Kurenai has been eliminated. The Shido pawn has been eliminated. The fourth fight is ended with victory for Shido. Up to the music. In the preparation area, Kurenai only looked a little annoyed, but he knew he could reverse this advantage his brother had over him. On the other hand, Shido looked at this analytically. Shido. Anything to avoid doing the usual. In the stands, Sumereko looked worried. Sumereko. Shin, could you tell me where the infirmary is? Shin. You're going to see my brother, right? The lens girl nodded. It's best if we all go, don't you think, Shin-kun? He said this while taking the boy's hand, who blushed at that action and nodded in embarrassment. Okay little sister, let's all go see the boy you like. The girl just nodded at what was said without any shame, as it was clear the feelings she had towards one of the members of the Hyoudou family. On the other hand, Razor in his box looked at his daughter who seemed worried about the fight that took place. Razor. Vihija. Henrietta didn't think twice and ran off in the direction of the stadium's infirmary, where the participants who had lost were currently being treated. Nursing. The others who had already participated and had been treated waited for the recent combatants to enter through that door, especially an albino boy who wanted to see the condition of his girlfriend. I hope my dear Robertina is well. Roy. Don't worry, our sister isn't weak. You'll see that when she's cured, the first thing she'll do is give you a kiss to calm you down. The albino just blushed at what was said and looked away. Main area of the stadium. Sererg. Wow, what a great battle they have just given us in this round, but we must continue with this game, kings please move to the dice area. Taking this into account, both kings rolled their dice, where Karinia got 5 points and Shido 4. Sererg. Perfect, this fifth round will be played with a total of 9 points, well you have 3 minutes to decide the next participant. As usual, the area of both kings was silenced so that no one could hear or see what each of them was saying. After 3 minutes the following scenario appeared. Combat zone. In the combat zone we see that 3 lights appeared, 2 on one side and only 1 on the other. The area where they would fight is an open field with large mountains around it. Naruto. Okay Ikki, it's our turn to finish this and see Karinia as she does her usual. Ikki. You're right, brother. X. I don't think so, it's time for you to go rest for a while and then wake up and do your usual things. Naruto. So you will be our opponent. Issei's balcony. We see the chestnut tree who was watching his children with great determination in his eyes, suddenly the chestnut tree's glove materialized. Greg. Mate, I gotta tell you, your son's gonna try that. Issei. I see, and tell me how your piece of soul is doing in X's artificial glove. Greg. I'd say he can communicate well now, like you did when we fought Diodora. Rias. I see, so this battle is more than decided. Isaka. Calm down Rias-san, remember that my son has not yet shown his true power. Tsubasa. Besides, my Ikki is fresh and will be able to fight in his master's style. Bekeno. Ara, my Kurenai selected well for this match, Yufufu. On the other hand, Valeri, who was next to her parents in the leader's VIP box, looked with concern at the clear disadvantage that her fiancé was facing, something that her father noticed. Ali. Daughter, don't worry about this fight, you'll see how X will get through this. Lauvain. That's right Virginia-kun, X-kun is someone strong, that's why he's your boyfriend, you should trust him. Valeria. Father, mother, you are right, he will be the winner. Combat zone. Referee. Okay, let's start the 5th match. If everything is ready, let's begin. Suddenly Naruto entered that phase which gave him victory in his last fight. On the other hand, Ikki began to gather fire in his hands, while X just watched seriously as both brothers went against him. X only limited himself to putting on the Sekiryuutei gloves, since his sacred gear was a copy of his father's, but he managed it in a different way. Both Ikki and Naruto started the fight by physically attacking the Redeed, who quickly defended himself with both arms. Suddenly in a single movement he charged a dragon shoot that he launched towards Naruto, who received that shot, throwing him against one of the mountains in the place. X. Well, with Naruto out, let's start our fight. Ikki. Ikki just smiled, and his hands, still covered in flames, began their fist fight. They both threw direct punches at each other's faces, but only X connected with those blows, while Ikki managed to graze his brother's cheek. At that, Tsubasa's son stepped back and took a fighting stance. Ikki. Well, it's time to show the training I had with Razor Sensei. Suddenly, Ikki's back was surrounded by fire, as if a phoenix's wings had emerged in all their splendor. Ikki, imitating his sister, began to throw fireballs from his hands, while X only dodged those attacks and returned the attacks with dragon shoot. Some attacks hit the target, but X didn't feel the pain of those fireballs, whereas Ikki's fire defense would decrease when he received the dragon shoots. At that, Naruto was getting back up and was going to attack, but he received a look from his brother telling him not to interfere, to which he nodded. X and Ikki continued their fight. If they moved away, each one would launch their own power, but the moment they got closer, the battle of fists would begin. X. Well, it's time to finish this. The Redeed moved away under the pretext of launching a dragon shoot at his brother, to which Ikki prepared his fire attack, but what he didn't count on was that this was a feint. At great speed, X approached his brother while charging energy in his left hand, to which with all his concentrated power, he punched him in the stomach, which caused Ikki to spit blood and lose consciousness. Shido's tower has been removed. Naruto just stood up from where he was sitting, looked at his brother with a confident smile, and launched himself at him. Suddenly the fist fight began, but little by little Naruto was losing the advantage as he felt each blow from X. Naruto, I see, you're using the power of Ascalon 3. X. You noticed, that's why I defeated Ikki. I don't suspect that he used the power of the Dragon Slayer that heaven gave me. The blows continued, but from one moment to another X managed to connect with his brother's face, sending him back to a mountain. The blonde began to reincorporate and looked seriously at his brother. Naruto. Well, if that is your power that you have obtained by training with father, I will show you what I learned with my mother. Let's go, Soul's Kurama. The yellow medallion appeared on the blonde's chest. At that, the blonde began his chant. O power that resides within this medallion. You who are the protector of this world. I invoke the call of the fox that lives within me. Show your power to my enemies. And let us demonstrate the power of the supreme yokai. Suddenly the blonde began to surround himself with a yellow-colored energy while his clothing changed, and that the energy that surrounded him caused him to rise and gave shape to a 9-tailed fox. Everyone in the room was impressed by the transformation of Yasaka's son. In Issei's VIP room, the kitsune just looked on with a smile of triumph for what her son had done. VIP room. The leaders were impressed by that transformation. No one said anything until Azazel spoke. Azazel. But what is that? Who knew? Well, we could call that my brother's balance break. In that jewel rests a hero of our faction, and until now Naruto has been the only one able to use that power of our hero. Bajuka. But what I see is that her fox transformation is different from yours or your mother's. Who knew? It's true, it's very different, but the difference is that he can control it better than us, since he doesn't have the disadvantage of his mind going into a trance when he's in that state. Combat zone. Redeed looked at his brother's transformation with admiration. X. So you will use all your power, that's fine with me, I will show you the power I obtained with father's training. I, who am about to awaken, am the Sekiryuutei who has discarded the principles of domination. I will walk the path of justice carrying dreams and indestructible hope. I will be the emperor of the Crimson Dragon. And I promise you all. I will show you the future that shines in true crimson light. X, like his father, obtained the armor of the Cardinal Crimson. X. Okay brother, let's finish this fight. But this said, everyone was waiting for the beginning of that fight. The good battle between both brothers was about to take place. Chapter 5. Hyoudou vs Hyoudou Part 4. The winner is. Combat zone. We are in the middle of the event between Gremory against his brother Naruto Hyoudou, both of whom have already shown their best transformation. Drag 2. Wow mate, I never thought you'd use this armor. X. I know Drag, but in front of me is one of my brothers, whose power can rival his father's if concentrated. At that, the dragon inside the artificial sacred gear looks at the battlefield. Break 2. Wow, the hero of the yokai, the great nine-tailed fox is back alive, Kukuku, this is going to be fun. Let's go, partner. X. Let's go. On the other hand, we see Naruto being surrounded by a yellow energy, which was shaped like a fox. Kurama. I see you dared to use balance break, boy, I don't know whether to call you brave or stupid. Naruto. Don't complain, fighting the Red Emperor Dragon Soul is exciting. At that the fox turned to see X with his crimson armor. Kurama. I see, Drake split his soul since I don't feel that's his full potential. Naruto. Indeed, the original Drake is with my father, but we still must not give up. Issei's VIP balcony. We see a bearded brown-haired man concentrating on his children's game, excited about what will happen next, but he is suddenly pulled out of his thoughts when he hears a small voice enter the room. Two-chan, Two-chan. At that Issei and his wives turned to see where that voice came from, suddenly Ria's maternal senses made them carry the small voice that came. Rias. Kateru-kun. Kateru. Little. Indeed, the youngest of all the children of the Hyoudou family had arrived at the stage, I am referring to little Kateru Hyoudou. He smiled while being carried by the beautiful Rias, suddenly he saw his father and extended his arms for him to carry him, action that the brunette reciprocated and then hit his cheek with the little boy's. Issei. Kateru-kun, where did you leave your mother? Hoda-kun, you shouldn't leave Kachan behind. Issei looked at the door because one of his last wives had arrived. It's good to see your father. I'm sorry, dear, but little Kateru was dying to see you. Issei. The good thing is that you arrived, love, but tell me what made you take so long. Well, I was finishing gathering all the homework that I will leave for Griselda in my absence. I'm already excited for this trip, my beloved Issei. At that moment, the woman went straight into her husband's arms to give him a beautiful kiss, one that only angels could give. Issei, I'm excited for the trip too, Gabriel. That's right, gentlemen, the person who just arrived at the VIP room was none other than Gabriel, one of the last women to marry the brunette, but unlike the other girls, she had only just been able to join the harem due to her responsibilities in heaven. Gabriel. And how are the children? The Keno. Well, right now we're in the middle of the fight between X against Naruto and Ikki, but one has already been defeated. Issei. What do you say, Kateru, we see your brothers fight. The little boy just nodded and smiled, and he didn't leave his father's arms as the others returned to their seats. Combat zone. The concentration between the two brothers was more than evident, each one analyzing his way of fighting. The first signs of the fight were a pair of dragon shots X sent his brother, who was covering himself with one of the fox's tails. The boys, while still watching each other, heard the voices of their fellow fighters. Break 2. Buddy, I suggest that if you're going to do something, do it, because I don't think you can withstand this armor for more than 10 minutes. Kurama. Boy, you must hurry, this transformation won't last long since it's the first time we're doing it. X Naruto. Walking. At that X flew off to crash into a large fox that was waiting for him with its claws. The Redeed hit that claw, making the beast retreat, who with its tails tried to hit the boy, but with his speed he dodged each attack. As X approached Naruto, he unleashed a series of combos with punches and kicks, but thanks to the fox cloak that covered him, the blows didn't reach him, causing the Redeed to devise another way to reach his brother. At that point, he came up with a somewhat risky plan. X. Drake, start recharging energy, I want to end this fight in one shot, but I need you to do it quietly, I want to surprise everyone. Break 2. Understood. X took flight again and went straight to his brother, who controlled his condition and managed to stand that fox on 2 legs, giving an unparalleled fight. Naruto managed to connect several blows to his brother who, with his arms in the shape of an X, managed to cover himself from each blow. On the other hand, X brought out Ascalon with the purpose of cutting the fox's tails in order to avoid further surprise attacks. Suddenly Naruto stood still and began to open the mouth of the fox that was covering him. Kurama. Just be careful with this ball, remember that it is a chakra and you have not yet mastered it well. Naruto. Don't worry, I wouldn't do something dangerous if I didn't know how to control it. X, seeing that Naruto stopped, thought he had gotten tired, but suddenly he was surprised to see a large ball of energy in the fox's mouth. Break 2. This is bad, the energy that sits there is chakra, boy, if you want to win I suggest you throw it now. X. I understand, and the good thing is that we have already finished charging this energy. X Naruto. Let's go, partner. Break 2 Kurama Longinus Smasher Biju Udama. At that moment, both released all the power they had gathered, the blonde launched a large dark ball in the direction of X, who in turn launched a large crimson ray that was launched against that ball. Both powers collided, which caused a huge shock wave along with a cloud of dust. Little by little, the result of that impact became clear. The entire wasteland of that combat zone had disappeared. You could see Naruto falling to the ground because his transformation had ended, then he looked to where his brother was supposed to be and realized he was no longer there. Naruto. This is over. I don't think so. He said this while descending at full speed with his dragon wings, like a bullet he hit him with his right hand, sending the blonde to the ground and leaving him knocked out, while X only fell to the floor because he managed to stop his path. Shido's pawn has been eliminated. The winner of this round is Kurenai. Balcony of the leaders. Everyone was impressed by the display of power the two brothers had given, but there was one girl who was worried about the outcome of the fight. Ray. Kunu-sama, could you tell me where the infirmary is? Kunu. Yes, let's both go see my brothers. Ray. Thank you, but I'd like to go to the stands first before we go. Kunu. And that. Ray. I'll tell him on the way. Kunu was left with doubt by that statement. On the other hand, we can see a Valeri who looked at her fiancé with loving eyes. Ali. You see, daughter, I was right, this was easy for your fiancé. Valeri. You were right, father. X is the ideal man and the man of my dreams. Outside the box we see Kunu and Ray heading towards the stands when suddenly a scream was heard in the aisles. Ray. It's her. Kunu. Her. Suddenly in front of them a blonde girl with blue eyes appeared in front of them. Ray, take me to see my dear Iki-chan. Ray. Calm down Serena, in fact, we're going there. Kunu was shocked to see the girl's attitude, but a memory suddenly came to her recognizing that girl. Kunu. I remember you, you're the girl who accompanied us to the Kyoto festival 2 years ago, right? Serena. Indeed, I accompanied them on that evening where my Iki and I became boyfriend and girlfriend. Ray. Excuse me Kunu-sama, let me introduce her properly, she is my best friend from childhood and the new priestess of the temple of the goddess of the moon in Kyoto, her name is Serena. Serena. Nice to see you again, but come on, I want to see my Iki-chan. Ray. Don't worry, you'll see that it will be fine. Kunu. Well let's go with them at once. Saying this the three girls headed to the infirmary. Arena principal. Seryerg. What a meeting we have had, please kings go to the dice area. Both brothers rolled the dice, where Kurenai rolled 1 and Shido rolled 2. Seryerg. Well the result has been 3, please send your only piece you have available for this fight. On this occasion only Karinia's mouth and sounds were covered because Shido only had one piece that could participate, therefore, his screen only looked at his king looking at the transfer zone. Seryerg. Well time's up, please send your pieces to fight. Nursing. We see all the boys who had already fought watching each fight in detail while the two who had just finished the duel arrived. We can see Bell, who shared his bed with Robertina, cuddling close to each other. On the other hand, we see the Motohama sisters who had come to see Zen. Sumareko was the one most concerned about the boy's health, but she was happy to see him lying in bed as if nothing had happened. Ryu and Irie just held hands watching those fights between their nobilities. But a conversation between nobility caught everyone's attention. Alucard. Roy, to be honest, who do you think will win this game? Roy. I'm not really sure, if it's true my brother just used a great power in this last battle, he's one of those who doesn't give up easily. Alucard. I just hope we win, I don't want to do the usual since they already showed me the video of what would happen if we were to lose. Everyone in the room turned pale because they remembered the bet payout. Sumareko. I want to see Zen do that dance. Combat zone. In the area that looked like a kind of forest we see Alice who appeared again to fight, on the other side, appeared the half-vampire daughter of the chestnut, I mean Ernestine who looked seriously at her rival. Ernestine. You're the one who wants to take my brother and king. Alice. I just want him to accept the feelings I have for him. Ernestine. Well, you'll have to get past me first. Seryerg. If you're ready, start. At that moment, several silver daggers floated out of the bag on Ernestine's back, circling her in protective fashion. Suddenly, the girl moved her hand forward and the daggers flew toward Alice. In response to this, the blonde just drew her sword to repel the attack that was coming towards her, but suddenly. Alice. What's going on? He said this when he saw that he could no longer move his sword and then he saw how a purple mist began to cover the sword and from one moment to the next, it was released from his hands and then flew in front of Ernestine. Ernestine. What's wrong? Does your sword not love you anymore? Alice just got angry at that comment but then smiled challengingly. Alice. Don't worry, my partner may not answer me right now, but I'll bring another one. Sword birth. Saying this, many swords came out in front of her and she took one of the sacred demonic swords that her father had under his control. Upon taking the sword, it flew at her, to which Ernestine only defended herself by moving the sword she had stolen. It was a somewhat strange battle because it looked as if Alice was fighting nothing against an Ernestine who was moving her finger and conducting such an orchestra. As the battle wore on, Alice's stamina dwindled to the point where her fatigue was noticeable. Ernestine, on the other hand, just yawned and stopped paying attention to the fight, which was a mistake. Alice, seeing that small opening, lowered her defense and allowed a cut with her sword, but that was enough to get past her opponent's defense and… Ernestine. Oh. It was a cut on her side that she had received, unfortunately she started coughing blood. Ernestine. What's wrong with me? Alice. I'm sorry dear, but you see this sword is made of holy silver, if it already has the blessing of being a holy sword, add to that the purification of the silver it has. Ernestine understood this, but would not leave it like that, she began to take more daggers out of her purse, but… Ernestine. Pugh. He spat out blood as the cut had hurt him more than he thought, to the point that he fell to the floor. Ernestine. I won't give up, not until I prove myself a great family warrior. But an announcement caught the attention of the room. King Kurenai removes his bishop, the winner is Shidou's knight. At that moment Kurenai appeared on the battlefield and went straight to where her sister was, who was beginning to cough more blood. At that moment the boy gave her a phoenix tear for her health. Kurinia. I put up a good fight, but that sword is more dangerous than I thought, I'm so sorry. For many, this act was seen as an example of what a king should do with his pieces. Protecting them above all else, as this was what the boy's father demonstrated every day he fought. Issei's stage. Issei only felt proud of this act, as he held his son in his arms. Akeno. Ara Kurenai has proven to be a great retinue king, she looks a lot like Uanada. Issei. I know, he's a great guy and a good successor. Piteru. Kurchan. As a child he would say it with great excitement, his eyes full of stars, well, knowing that, of all the siblings in the family, Kurenai was the one he loved the most. Issei. Yes Kateru, you have a great older brother. Combat zone. Seeing how they carried Ernestine because she was badly injured due to that attack she gave, Alice felt bad about herself. At that Kurenai went to where the blonde was and she just looked at the floor, thinking that they would complain about this act that she committed. Suddenly she felt on her shoulder the hand of the boy she liked. Kurenai. Don't worry, this is my fault, I thought I could do something against that sword, but I forgot that you are a great warrior, so don't feel guilty okay? Alice. But Kurenai, I went too far, you don't deserve these. At that she felt a kiss on her cheek from Kurenai. Kurenai. Calm down now, I also want to see your dance. At that moment, the boy who was carrying his sister in his arms left the arena, where a stretcher took away a slightly tired Ernestine. Before leaving she spoke to him. Ernestine. I really am pathetic. Kurenai. That's not true, you just need to train your resistance to the sacred, we don't focus on that part, but your confidence was what hit you in the first place. Ernestine understood those words and it is true, when she saw that Alice could not penetrate the defense she put up with the sword she stole from her, she ignored everything around her, that included Alice herself. Ernestine. Sorry, bro. Kurenai. Don't worry, rest for a moment now. The girl nodded and was taken to the infirmary. Kurenai, for her part, headed to her planning area and saw her two remaining brothers. Kurenai. X, how is your energy? X. I've recovered, but I don't think I can access Cardinal Crimson again, but I'm complete enough to continue fighting. Kurenai. Perfect, Helmwich, your participation ends here. Helmwich. Because you say so. She was left in doubt when she heard Seryerg's voice. Seryerg. Well, in this fight we saw how a good king should behave for his family, now kings, if you want to go to the dissection to continue with the fights. At that Kurenai stood in front of the dissection, but when she took it she put it in a bag. This behavior caught the attention of everyone in the stadium. Kurenai. Shidou, I challenge you to a final fight, just you and me with our respective queens. Shidou on the other hand saw an Alice who had just fought in this one, although the cut that Ernestine gave him in their previous fight did not show it. Shidou. Well, I accept this challenge, brother. At that Shidou stood in the transportation zone, next to him was his queen and sister Athena, behind them he saw an Alice who was grabbing where she got that cut. Shidou. Alice, your participation is over, I suggest you go to the infirmary. Alice. Understood. Seryerg. Well, I already talked to the game judges and they accepted Kurenai Hyoudu's request. Well, I will ask both kings and queen to stand in the transportation zone to start the last match of the night. The aforementioned followed the instructions and then disappeared from the scene. Combat zone. The combat zone was somewhat strange, it was just a simple platform where the only light was that of an artificial sun, around that platform there was only darkness that the sun could barely reflect. In the middle of the stage appeared both kings and queens. Kurenai. X, you go for Athena, let me face Shidou. X. Understood. On the other hand, Shidou took off the glasses he was wearing. Athena. I'll go for X, you have that fight you've been wanting to have against our older brother. Shidou. Thank you. In the middle of the arena Serekh appeared looking at both kings. Serekh. Well, if both of you are ready, start. Suddenly, all the siblings flew off on their demon and dragon wings. Both queens then clashed, flying in opposite directions. Hyoudou and Kurenai clashed fists, both charged with their special abilities. Kurenai's hand held lightning bolts, while Hyoudou's was covered in ice. Both brothers began to fight head-on without any respite. Hyoudou hit Kurenai's abdomen, and he returned the action with a sweep to the legs and a hammer blow, which the latter managed to react and dodge that movement. Hyoudou. I'm impressed by Kurenai, but it's time to add some excitement to this duel. Kurenai. Sounds perfect to me. Both placed their hands to the sky, where the energy that was beginning to be released to give each one the form of a dragon, on Kurenai's part a lightning dragon, came out who looked with challenge at the ice dragon that Hyoudou had created. It must be said that both dragons gave a Draeger. With that, moving their hands forward, both boys sent the dragons to fight each other, while the aforementioned fought bare-handed against each other. The great spectacle could be seen that only a few had witnessed, the abysmal fight between two dragons, how they threw the element that created it from their mouths, the bites that each one gave each other, and the blows that they connected with either their legs, wings and even their own tail, they used it to impact against the other's body. On the other hand, Hyoudou and Kurenai were hitting each other cleanly, while dodging both the lightning and the pieces of ice that the dragons themselves were sending at their summoner's opponent. Elsewhere, X could be seen fighting hand-to-hand with his sister, who was an expert in street combat, but as for magic, she didn't have it under control, or so X thought. X. Take this. Rias sent a dragon shoot, hoping his sister would dodge it and take advantage to hit her, but what happened at that moment left him speechless. Athena. Psycho Ball. Suddenly, a ball of energy came out of his hands, different from the usual ones he had seen elsewhere, but he just watched as that ball hit his shot, making both of them disappear. X. It's not possible, you weren't supposed to have trained your magic. Athena. You'll see that Father and Uncle Azazel's training always bears fruit. X. Well, let's get on with this fight. X flew towards his sister in order to give her the same blow with which he defeated his brother Naruto, a serious mistake. Athena. Psycho Wall. An aura of the same energy that had made her covered her as if it were a personal shield. This impressed all the spectators, but there was a boy who watched each of her movements attentively. This was Mitsuda's son. X didn't have time to react to the blow. He landed against the wall, causing it to retreat a little. Athena. It's my chance, Psycho Medley. The girl ran against her brother and began her combo of blows, which in her hands and feet had that energy. You could see each of the blows that Athena gave to her brother. He on the other hand, only felt how his body resented each blow. Once he finished giving the series of blows, X flew until he reached the edge of the platform. X. I have to do something or Kurenai will have a disadvantage against the two of them. Drake starts with the boosts. Athena just stood up and started making that wall of energy again. Athena. This is over, brother. Saying this, the energy that was covering her suddenly moved to the palm of her hand. X just looked at that energy and could feel that, despite being a small ball, it concentrated great power inside. X. Take this, dragon shoot. Athena. There goes my pent-up energy. Both powers collided again, but this time neither of them gave in. What they didn't expect was that, having the same power, they deviated and went to a point where they shouldn't have gone. Athena X. Oh no, careful brother. On the other side of the fight, the elemental dragons had already disappeared, and both Hyoudou and Kurenai were struggling against each other. Without paying attention to their surroundings, they continued with their fight, but suddenly they returned to reality when they heard the voices of their brothers. Athena X. Oh no, careful brother. When they turned to see where they were shouting from, they only saw how two energies were about to impact them, and I say were because when they turned around the last thing they saw was the silhouette of their brothers, and then. Cloak. Kurenai and Hyoudou can no longer continue, this game ends in a draw. Stadium stands. Everyone in the stadium fell silent upon seeing this type of ending. Nobody could believe it, both kings had been eliminated by the powers of their respective queens. Issei and his wives just remained silent with this, seeing that the excitement of a battle took away the most important thing from each king, their concentration. The atmosphere of silence was broken when everyone in the room applauded and celebrated this type of epic and curious ending. Sona. Kurenai and Hyoudou turned out just like you my love, addicted to battles and not paying attention. Issei just laughed while he continued to hold Kataru in his arms, who was crying because he thought his brother had died when he disappeared from both blows. At that Gabriel took the baby in his arms and began to rock him. Gabriel. Okay Kota-chan, your brothers are fine, come let's go see them. Issei I'm going ahead to the infirmary so Kataru can't see Kurenai. Issei. Okay, tell them I'll see them soon. Combat zone. Only two brothers could be seen, their faces pale and dripping with sweat as they realized that they themselves were responsible for causing their own brother to die. Athena. What have we done? With this result, the brothers' match ended, where there were declarations and love shown. Where the only question in the air was, who would pay the bet? Day of the Dead special. We will honor them forever. This event takes place 2 weeks before the boys' raiding game. New Hyoudou Mansion. This day was October 31st, and we see that things at the mansion are a little hectic. Shido. Well brothers, we must finish the preparations for these 3 days. Athena. Who came up with the idea of having the party on such short notice? Suddenly a girl with purple hair and orange eyes entered the room, next to her came Issei's official wife. Ingvald. It was my idea, daughter. We've had a Halloween party every year since your father and I were dating. X. We know that, since my mother tells me all the time how the party was, your first party in that aspect. Rias. That's why this year, it's your turn to organize the party. The invitations have been sent to our closest friends and the alliance leaders, so it's your responsibility to have the party more than ready. The children were surprised by this statement. X. Well, let's get to work, this year will be the best party ever, Kurenai will need your help Kurenai. Rias. He is busy, remember the promise he made a year ago with Alice and your siblings Irie, Zen and Shin. X. Wow, what you experienced last year was unimaginable. Rias. That's right, we also invited a certain god as a promise of compensation for what they did on that trip. X. They really went too far, but oh well, it was a great trip. All the children were preparing everything on the upper floor where the office and Lilith's shrine is located. Akeno's children, Asia, Zenobia and Irina along with Kiba's daughter, were preparing something very special that was rare to see, especially in the country of Japan. Kurenai. Well, we're almost done with this altar. Zen. I know, we just need to go get the velvet flowers for the cross, well Shin will put that together so we don't get hurt. Shin. If you don't worry about that part, father told me that he already sent one of his employees and will bring them. At that moment, Issei's lover was arriving, holding in her arms a photo of someone very special to her. Akeno. Ara, the altar is looking nice, son, but tell me why you want the photo of your grandmother. Kurenai. Okasama, who doesn't remember what happened last year and why we are making the altar. The brunette was just trying to remember, but due to the job she had as Grigory's cadre, things sometimes got away from her. Akeno. I'm sorry Kurenai, but would you tell me again what happened? Kurenai. Okay mother. A year ago. A letter with a particular seal had arrived at Sirzechs' office in Lucifer's castle. He had received the letter from his wife and entourage queen. Sirzechs. So you also want to join the alliance? Grayfia. What's wrong Sirzechs-sama? Sirzechs. The Aztec gods faction wishes to join the alliance with the other factions. Grayfia. The Aztec faction, I thought they were going to maintain enmity with the angels, you know because of what happened in those lands. Sirzechs. Well, it seems the Quetzalcoatl-sama was the one who suggested putting that grudge aside and moving forward. It seems that he still has devoted followers in those lands. Grayfia. So, will the faction leaders go? Sirzechs. No, they asked Issei-kun to go personally, it is understandable since he is the pillar of the factions, they see it as a way for him to get to know the region and its customs, especially given the date we are about to arrive. Grayfia. It refers to the Day of the Dead, right? Sirzechs. Indeed, please contact the alliance leaders, my sister and brother-in-law. The maid nodded and left the room to contact the leaders of the respective factions. An hour had passed and in the meeting room of Lucifer's castle, the leaders of each faction began to appear, accompanied by a person they trusted. On the part of the demons were the four Nous, accompanied by the head of the Sitri family, Agares, Gremory and Belphegor. Grigori was Azazel along with one of the new cadres that had been put in place. Akeno Himejima. Michael came from heaven with his ace Arena. Vidal and Thor were in Asgard. The gods of Olympus came Apollo and Athena, the latter had a secret reason for coming. The Kyoto faction had the leader Kunu along with an old acquaintance to everyone in the underworld, I mean the only son of Sirzechs Lucifer or better known as Sirzechs Gremory, Milica's Gremory, future leader of the Gremory house. The last to arrive were the Egyptians, who were also the last to formally join the alliance. Horus is in the room with Osiris. At that moment they were waiting for the faction pillar to arrive in the room to begin the event. Sorry for the delay, but I had to finish something with a particular person. The hero of the Hyoudou Issei factions had arrived at the hall along with one of his wives, Zenobia Corda, both were a little disheveled, and the brunette had a hickey on his neck, something that his legal wife saw, and she only limited herself to sighing in heaviness, because she already knew what those two had done. Sirzechs. Well, we're all gathered now. Let's start the meeting for which I called you. Azazel. Okay, what's up? Sirzechs. This morning I received a letter from the Aztec gods, who along with the Mayan gods of the region that was known as Mesoamerica, wished to join the alliance. Everyone in the room was surprised by the decision those gods had made, because in the fight against the Chaos Brigade, and more so with what was left of it, they only helped unofficially for one reason. Michael. I thought they would be left out because of our presence in the alliance. Sirzechs. Well, it seems the Quetzalcoatl has decided to reopen his faction, since he has seen that he still has followers in his region. This pleased Michael, because the Spanish invaders and extremist members of the church at the time imposed his father's teachings against his will. Elohim wanted to apologize to them when he was still alive, but Quetzalcoatl expelled him from the region because he saw how his people died at the hands of the conquerors in his name. The wound was freshly made. Apollo. Then we will all go to the lands of those gods to sign the peace. Sirzechs. I was asked to go only on behalf of our Pillar Alliance. Everyone looked at the brown-haired boy with a serious face. Issei. What's wrong? Azazel. Well, it's understandable, the Brad is the pillar of the factions that united us to be in this time of peace. Issei. Hey, I'm not a Brad anymore. Sirzechs. Anyway, and to show you more of their parties, one of which is coming up. Rias. But he won't go alone, right? I don't want him to go around conquering like the dragon he is. This comment only made those present shed a sweat, except for Irina, Akeno, Sona and Zenobia, who agreed with the comment made by the official wife of the brown-haired man's harem. Issei. Don't worry about it, my beloved Rias. This made the woman act like a teenage girl and blush at the comment. Issei. Since my entourage will be busy with contracts these days, we will go to my royal suite, along with one of my children who wants to accompany me. At that, Cadre Akeno raised his hand to speak. Akeno. I suggest you take your firstborn with you, as the future leader of the Hyoudou house he should be associated with your activities. Issei. Sounds good to me, I'll take Kurenai with me. Sirzechs. It is decided. In 2 days, you, your queen, and your firstborn will travel to the lands of the Aztec and Mayan gods to make the alliance. The meeting is adjourned. Saying this, most of the leaders had left, only Issei's brothers-in-law, Azazel, his adopted daughter, and the chestnut's wives remained. Sirzechs. Okay Issei-kun, I need you to tell us who will be going tomorrow and buy the plane tickets. Issei. The truth is I would like to see it with Ingvald, to know who will accompany us to the meeting with the Aztec gods. What are you saying, Rias, do you want to come? Rias. I would like to go with you, my ice, but I will have too much work, since if that alliance is given, I must start immediately making contracts with them and the Gremory house. Issei. Why to Akeno? Akeno. Sorry Anata, but this cadre work takes up my time, I have to see to the internal affairs in Grigori. Issei. Sona. I'm sorry, love, but we're checking out a cure for the sleeping sickness my father still suffers from. Issei. Zenobia, what are you saying? Let's go. Michael. Sorry Issei-kun, but I'll need Zenovia's help. Zenobia. My help. Michael. Yes, my sister hasn't been able to sleep well lately and I'd like you to take care of my nephew while my sister gets some rest. Zenobia. Little Kataru hasn't let Gabriel sleep, well that's because he was just born. Issei just felt a little sad about it since he hadn't been able to help his new wife. This was seen by Michael. Michael. Don't worry Issei-kun, my sister understands that you can't be with her all the time, that's why she asked me to call one of her harem sisters to help her with this. Issei. Okay, tell her I'll go see her when I get back from my trip. Then I'll go see my queen and tell her about the trip. Rias. Wait Ice, we need to talk to you Akeno, Sona and I. The brown-haired man approached his wife with hesitation, but at that moment the three of them surrounded him and hugged him. Rias. Akeno now. Saying this, the four disappeared, leaving a seal mark on the ground. Zenobia. It's not fair, I wasn't invited. Irina. Me neither, how bad they are, next time Zenobia let's take advantage of darling when he's distracted. Sirzechs. What just happened? Zenobia. They went to have fun with Issei, I know because the seal is to take us to the special room. Those who were there were left with a drop of sweat because they were too quick in that aspect. Milikas. Who would have thought that my aunt still behaves like a teenager in that aspect, I don't have to do it when I want to be with my beautiful Kunu. He said that out loud, forgetting where he was, causing the kitsune to blush deeply, her father with his eyes in shock, but above all an aura of death filled the place. Grayfia. Milikas, we should have a talk, you and I, now. Iridid only felt himself fall to the floor and be dragged by his feet while he screamed in despair to his father. Sirzechs. I'm sorry son, but I want to live. Michael. Well see you later, go Zenobia-san. Zenobia. Yes. Azazel. We'll talk later, then you tell me how your boyfriend Kunu's death went, I hope Issei doesn't find out or there will be a double execution, ha 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 ha. Kunu. Don't say that, no way, I'll have to wait for him and take him to the emergency room when he finishes talking to Oka-san. Sirzechs. If necessary, let's go get a cup of tea. Saying this, everyone left the meeting room. Time skip. After the chestnut tree spent a few hours tending to his women, he went to the living room of his house, where his eldest son was reading a book on how to talk well to the girl you like. The brown-haired boy just laughed at this act because it reminded him a lot of himself when he was young. Issei. Good reading, right Kurenai? Kurenai. Odo-san, how nice to see you. Issei. I'm glad to see you anyway. Hey, do me a favor, gather your brothers and your mother Ingvild please, tell her I'll see them in my office in 5 minutes. Kurenai. Understood. 5 minutes later, we see the brunette reading some electronic documents about a particular topic on his cell phone when he is pulled out of his reading by hearing a knock on his bedroom door. Issei. Go ahead. Kurenai. Thank you father, I brought them all as you asked. Issei. Bien Payson. Saying this, the other children of the chestnut tree entered their father's office followed by his wife and queen. Ingvild. Honey, what do you need us for? Issei. Well, I'll be clear, the Aztec faction wants to join the alliance and they requested that I attend the signing to make it a reality, so you, my beloved, as my queen piece, must accompany me. Ingvild. I understand, I'll go prepare both of their luggage, I'll find a maid. X. And why did you call us? Issei. Well, the alliance leaders decided that my children could accompany me on this trip, only Kurenai has the obligation to go since as my firstborn he will take charge of the Hyoudou house when I retire, so, that's why I come to offer you the invitation, who else doesn't want to accompany? This statement left everyone astonished, except Issei's eldest son. Kurenai. Wait father, I can't go, I already have an outing planned with a special person. Issei. Well, let him accompany you, let's go, it's a beautiful country where we're going. X. Sorry, don't count on me. Valerie told me she wanted to see me, I don't know why, but she wants me to go to the Lucifer mansion around that time. Issei. I understand, your fiancé is very attached to you. X. Shut up, I wouldn't be your fiancé if you had told me the results of a fight between dragons. Issei. Okay, what do the others say? The other children had told him they would be busy with training or outings with their mothers that they already had planned for that day, except for the new trio from church. Zen. Odo-san, count on me for the trip. Shin. Same with me, getting to know another country and its culture will be exciting. Irie. I will go father, it sounds fun, besides I have to go because otherwise only one girl would go. Issei. 1. Kurenai. Yes, since you forced me to go, I'll invite Alice on the trip since she was the one I had the outing with. Issei. Fine, just tell your father, okay. Kurenai. Understood. Issei. Okay, you three prepare your luggage. We may go for a day or a week, but I suggest you pack enough clothes for 3 days. The church trio. Understood. Issei. Well, I'm leaving to pack my luggage. See you tomorrow in the lounge at 5 AM. Now I must let your uncle know how many of us will be going so he can buy the plane tickets. You may go. Once the meeting was over, the children who decided to accompany the chestnut tree went to their rooms to get ready and go on their trip. Meanwhile, Kurenai went to her friend Alice's house and told her about the trip with her parents, Kiba and Tsubaki. They both saw the positive side of the alliance with the Aztecs and allowed their daughter to go on the trip. The next morning, all the residents of the house were awake and went to the living room of the same place to say goodbye to those who would go to the signing of the alliance with the new members to join. On one hand, we see a chestnut-haired man who slept satisfactorily since all of his wives came to sleep with him the night before, something that with his current responsibilities was difficult to say. On the other hand, the brothers only had sleepy faces because their own mothers had woken them up to say goodbye to their father and brothers. Issei. Okay, I already have the plane tickets. Normally we would go through the magic circle, but since there is no contact between us and Mexico, we will travel this way. Rias. Please take care my eyes. Bekeno. And take good care of your children, so nothing happens to them. Asia. Isan, bring lots of gifts for us and your children. Zenobia. And don't forget little Kateru, he deserves a gift too. Issei. Okay. At that moment they hear the door opening. Driver. Sir, the limousine with the master's things is ready. Issei. Thank you very much, well children and Alice it's time to go. Issei said goodbye to each of his wives in a loving manner, the brothers, still half asleep, wished him luck on the trip, and Ingvild only received instructions from Rias and Akeno to keep away any lizard that wanted to approach the brown-haired man. Saying this, everyone left Issei's mansion heading to the airport and traveled to the country of the Aztec gods, Mexico. November 1st. Issei and his family had arrived in Mexico City, after almost 19 hours of travel they finally arrived at their destination. Upon leaving the airport, he put on sunglasses, supposedly to avoid being recognized, which didn't work because. Girl 1. Look, he's the hero of the world and the factions. Girl 3. Oh my god, it's the Op-Eye Dragon. Boy 2. My lord, please let me belong to your army. They saw the commotion they caused just by arriving at the place. Ingvald. Anada, it's time to go. Issei. You're right. The Hyoudou family left the arrivals hall. When they noticed a sign with their name, they went to where the person who had that sign. Issei. You must be the person who would pick us up from the Aztec faction, right? Assistant. Indeed, Lord Quetzalcoatl sent me for you, but we must leave quickly. I see that you like to attract a lot of attention. Issei. I understand, fine, please take us to the place where we will sleep. Attendant. Understood, please get in the limo. Following the instructions, they got into the aforementioned car. The limo driver, and at the request of the person who picked them up, took them on a short tour of the city until they reached their destination, the Wild Oscar Hotel. Issei's children were amazed by the beauty of modern Mexico City, especially when they passed through Chapultepec Park. Once they arrived at the hotel, they were surprised by the hospitality that greeted them outside the hotel. Assistant. Please leave your things in the rooms that have already been reserved. They are the 2 penthouses, one for the children and one for you and your wife, Mr. Issei. I'll wait for you here to take you to the shuttle that will take you to Mr. Quetzalcoatl. Issei. You heard, take a bath and get dressed to go out. All. Understood. Obeying the order, the visitors went to shower and change so they could travel south of Mexico City. To be more precise, to the Xochimilco borough. Along the way, they saw residents dressed as skulls or charros, something that surprised them since at this time of year they usually saw costumes of demons or monsters. Kurenai. Excuse me, but why are children dressed like this? Assistant. Well, one of the reasons why we asked for the Op-Eye Dragon to come on these dates is because we Mexicans, especially from the center of the country down, celebrate our deceased. Issei. How is that? Assistant. Yes, in our traditions on November 1st and 2nd we celebrate the visit of the dead since Lord Mictlantecutli and his wife Mictlantecuhtli give permission to those who have already left this world to come on these dates. The visitors were impressed, all except one. Kurenai. What a good story, if that were true my grandmother would always visit my mother. Issei. Kurenai, behave. Kurenai. I'm sorry father, but if this were true my grandmother would give us the visit as they say. This made the assistant just give him a serious look, but as soon as something occurred to him. Assistant. Excuse me, what is your full name? Kurenai. Milemo Kurenai Hyoudou Himejima. This caught the assistant's attention, and he stopped looking at the boy to turn on his cell phone and send a message. They spent almost an hour traveling, as there was traffic in the city, only to notice the radical change the city had undergone, from a modern landscape to a more contemporary one, as if time had stopped in the city hall where they had arrived. The limo pulled up to a pier within the city, impressing everyone. As they got out, the assistant guided them inside the pier, only to see something that caught their attention. Issei. Wow, what are those boats? Those Sekiryuutei dono are trajineras, the means of transport we use to travel the canals we have in this sacred lake. Everyone turned to see the voice that had spoken, only to see a very muscular person. Hello Sekiryuutei dono, let me introduce myself, I am the Aztec god Quetzalcoatl, it is a pleasure to have you in Mexican lands. For some reason, Irie and Alice blushed at the sight, which annoyed Kurenai and her siblings. On the other hand, Issei laughed at his children's expressions, and even more at Kurenai. Issei. Thank you for receiving us Quetzalcoatl-sama, we have come to make an alliance with you. Quetzalcoatl. Splendid, but I would like only you and your wife to come, the young people are free to go on the tourist tour that we offer in these Xochimilco canals. Young priest please guide them to the Trajinera for the tour. Priest. Understood, well guys follow me, I'll take you for a walk and you can observe the preparations we make on these dates. The boys boarded the Trajinera named Guadalupe, while Issei, his wife and Quetzalcoatl boarded the one called Sekiryuutei. Issei. Okay boys behave and remember Kurenai, you are in charge. Kurenai. Yes father, don't worry. Saying this, the boys went their separate ways, only to see the boat the chestnut tree was in go down a canal and simply disappear. Kurenai. Hey what's up? Priest. That Trajinera is Lord Quetzalcoatl's personal transport. They went directly to the land of the Aztec gods. We will travel along these canals so you can learn more about the culture of today's and tomorrow's festivities. Saying this, the boys marveled at the nature that existed in the area, how colorful the plantations were. Alice. One question, what are those lands and how is it that they don't flood? Priest. You see what you see here are the chinampas, a method our ancestors used to farm on this land. They asked permission to take photographs of the place, to which the priest replied that it was no problem. After an hour, they arrived at a Trajanera dock where a few meters away was a parish church and nearby a cemetery. But what really caught their attention was how colorful and ornate the place itself was. Instead of being quiet as the Pantheon normally was, everything here was decorated with candles, papier-mâché, food, drinks, and in the small graves there were toys, but above all, in each one of them there was a photograph. Priest. As you can see, we Mexicans celebrate these days and commemorate those who have left us food because believe it or not, they visit us and taste the food we give them. It's easy to recognize because after 2 days, the taste of the food simply disappears. We place all of this on altars, either here or at home. It all depends on where we want to receive them. Zen. But what happens when you leave the food out, the flavor of the dish disappears. Priest. I see you don't believe, but well, in 2 days you'll see that what I say is true, take it. At that he gave her an orange. Priest. Keep this for 2 days and you will see that the flavor of this orange is different from the one I will give you from the altar we have in my house. Zen. Well, that sounds perfect to me. Kurenai. Something else to mention, except that the dead don't visit, which I don't believe. Priest. I can't tell you anything, but well, I'll leave you to see what the celebration is like. Just one thing. Respect the altars there and don't steal anything. It would be bad to steal from the dead on these dates, right? Saying this, the boys were surprised by this comment, but they ignored it, especially Kurenai, who just continued walking towards the back of the place with her brothers. Then the priest made a communication circle in the middle of the seal. There was a strange symbol. Priest. Yes sir, they have already entered and the tomb is ready. I hope that with this they will better understand the festivities of these days. Saying this, and without anyone noticing, the priest turned into a semi-black hairless dog and then entered the place. Returning to Kurenai and the others, they watched as the people in the cemetery, instead of being sad or silent, were playing music or chatting in the open air, as if someone were with them. This behavior struck them as odd. On the other hand, the girls watched these activities with great happiness, and suddenly, one place caught Alice's attention in particular. Alice. Look, that grave has an altar, but there's no one there. The others noticed this and went to the lonely grave. Kurenai and the others saw that it was the tomb of an old man, both from the photograph and the date. Suddenly curiosity got the better of him, and he took one of the things that were there. Shin. Kurenai, stop, the priest told us not to steal anything. Kurenai. And I don't do it, I just wanted to see if the skull there was made of chocolate. Alice. That's true and this is a sugar skull. Zen. Hey, what kind of soda is this bottle called Corona? Irie. I don't know, but why would they put a guitar here? Shin was overcome by temptation and took one of the fruits that were there. Hey, what do you think you're doing? Everyone was surprised by the voice as they thought they had been caught taking things. Kurenai. Sorry, we'll return him to the grave. Don't worry, but if you wanted to try my offering I would have. The voice didn't finish speaking because when he saw the boys he was surprised. How is it that a living person is here? All. Alive one. When they turned around, they saw the owner of the voice, only to be surprised to see an elderly man, but with the unique characteristic that he was just a skeleton with clothes, the same ones in the photo. Irie. Sir, who took your skin? Alice. Maybe it was a rogue demon. Demon? I don't know what's going on, but stay away from me. He ran out to the outskirts of the cemetery. Kurenai. We must follow him, perhaps his attacker is nearby. Saying this he and the others ran from the desolate area where he was, only to be surprised to see the cemetery even more crowded. Irie. It can't be. Zen. Possible. They were shocked to see that the same people were in the graves they had passed before, but around them were skeletons with clothes. The unique feature here is that they were happy and had their clothes on, the same ones in the photo that were in the same graves. Kurenai. But what happened? Aztec Kingdom. We see the gods happy next to a chestnut tree because the peace treaty and the inclusion of the Aztec faction in the supernatural alliance had been signed. Issei, along with Tlaloc, Meahulan Quetzalcoatl, toasted with happiness with a new drink that the Aztecs enjoyed. Issei. This Corona is delicious. Meahul. I know, I brought it once out of curiosity to learn about this thing called beer, and we were fascinated by the flavor of this one in particular, made in Mexico. On the other hand, Ingvild and Oxomoco, goddess of calendars, spoke happily because she told him what her husband was like, which caught the Aztecs' attention. Everything was happiness, but suddenly a call silenced the entire place, as they called a certain god of death. Witlanta. I understand, I will tell her to prepare everything and don't worry, I will let her father know here, please guide them to the house and have Miklan tell her that it is ready. Saying this, he closed the communication seal and looked at the brown-haired man. Witlanta. Sekiryuutei, let me tell you that your children are in the world of the dead. This surprised the boy and his wife. On the other hand, the other gods had an idea of what happened. Tlaloc. Don't tell me they took things from the abandoned altar. Wiklanta. I'm afraid so, but my priest will guide you home. It helps that you know everything about that world and see a particular person who by the way also wants to see you. Issei. Please tell me Issei and what can be done about that. Wiklanta. Don't worry, this is just an experience that believe me they won't forget, let's all stay at my house since we're going to her. The others were shocked by what he said and took the entire festivities to disappear from the place. Cemetery. The boys were in a panic, from one moment to the next there were dead people in front of them, or rather living and happy skeletons. I told you not to take anything. Kurenai. Priest-san, tell me what happened. Kurenai was shocked to turn around and see a semi-black dog. Kurenai. Who are you and where is the priest? Who would have thought you'd recognize my voice? Well, I'm the priest who guided them, but in reality, I'm a protective spirit who guides the dead to the underworld. My name is Zolo, I'm a Seekvaira. The others turned around to see their shock was greater because in front of them a common dog was talking. Zolo. Well now follow me, since you are cursed for having touched the tomb of that shaman. The dog walked in front of them to follow a path lit by several candles. Shin. What do we do Kurenai? Kurenai. We must follow him, he may be a dog, but he is the same priest who guided us here. Kurenai just walked in front, followed by the others. Zolo just watched as the boys followed him and he continued walking towards a bridge made of pure orange flowers. Zolo. Don't stay behind or they won't let you pass if you don't come with me. The boys didn't understand this, but they continued walking until they reached the bridge and began to climb it. When they saw the other side, their minds did not believe what they saw. It was a colorful and joyful place, there were houses and buildings in all their splendor, but what caught their attention was that its sky was similar to the underworld where their mothers later went. Irie. Excuse me Zolo, but this is the demonic underworld, right? Zolo. You are wrong, it may look like the biblical underworld, but it is not, here the souls that rest in peace and without any worries of the earthly world live, how to say it, this is an underworld that is on the same level as the Elysian fields of the Greeks, the name of the place is Almectlan. The boys thought he was home, but that statement only gave them an idea. Alice. We. Shin. We are. Kurenai. Muertos. Zolo. They're not dead yet, they're just cursed for stealing things from an altar, but don't worry, we'll go with the goddess Sirzechs, she'll help us with this. Okay, follow me. The boys followed the dog that was ahead of them. Upon entering the city, they noticed that it was filled with joy and there was music of a particular style. Kurenai. Hey Zolo, what kind of music is this, I haven't heard it before. Zolo. Well, lately, musicians from a region of Mexico have arrived and these days they gather on the esplanade to give a concert for the dead. Look, for example, one of the idols who have established themselves in this area is going to play. They looked expectantly at the esplanade of the place, as a person surrounded by several musicians were more than ready to play. Well my beautiful people, I hope you are enjoying this day and have gone to see your beloved family as our Lord's command. My name you know is Valentin Elizold and let's continue with this party. Public. Yes. Valentin. Today we'll start with a song from a land that adopted me and I feel part of it, okay guys, get going. The children watched as, even though the people in this place were dead, they danced and had fun with the music and food they brought with them. The girls watched the way they danced to that kind of music and were quick to dance with each other, imitating the steps of a couple standing next to the boys. Kurenai. I don't understand, how is it possible that even though they're dead they're still happy and don't care about anything? Zolo. You see, in this underworld, souls arrive who have no sorrow at all, and the reason they remain like that is because of their living families and the altars. Zen. How is that? Zolo. Well follow me, we must see some people so you can better understand what is happening in this place. They left while the singer continued with his turn at the concert. They walked through several streets of the city only to arrive at a rather forgotten neighborhood. Alice. What's going on in this place? Zolo. Here the souls that no longer have anyone to remember them come to life here, awaiting their end. Shin. Are they finished? Zolo. If it's true. He didn't finish speaking as several people gathered in one of the huts, only to see a light begin to flicker. Dead 1. Look, it's Mr. Zolo. Dead 2. Let him pass. The Zolo just walked over to where the body of a skeleton was on the floor and it was glowing dimly. Dead 3. Mr. Zolo, an honor to have you in this humble house. Zolo. It's time for you to rest in peace. Dead 3. Apparently nobody remembered me anymore. Zolo. We in this land will always do it. Dead 3. Thank you. Saying this, the dead man lying on the ground simply disappeared from the place, the other dead men left the house, leaving Zolo and the boys inside it. Zolo. This is what happens when no one remembers you in the world of the living. The people we saw at the concert are still here because they have someone who remembers them as they were in life. But that he left the house followed by Issei and Alice's children while he continued talking. Zolo. But if in the world of the living people stop remembering it or simply push it aside, the dead disappear, ending their existence in this kingdom of peace. The boys didn't know that there was something beyond death, leaving something new in them. Kurenai. Wait, I understand what you're saying and it's easy for artists to never be forgotten, but for ordinary people who didn't stand out from them, how do they do it? Zolo. That's what altars are for. With them we remember them these days, and that's why you can go out. Okay, now follow me. We must go with my wife so she can help you. I just hope what I showed you teaches her that even in death, people will always be with us. The boys understood this lesson, but especially one boy. Zolo. Especially for you Kurenai, don't think that just because your loved one is dead, doesn't mean they don't care for you, they may be closer than you expect. Kurenai. I hope so, I know that Grandma will always take care of my mother. Shin. But Zolo-san, the dead are at peace here, right? Zolo. That's right, they leave nothing pending in the world and come to this place to rest, although there are several who are delayed, but they managed to reach this world of calm. At that moment a circle appeared in the dog's ear. Zolo. I understand, let's go right away. Closing the communication the dog just turned to look at them. Zolo. Well let's hurry, they are waiting for us at my master's house. Irie. Wait. Zolo. We have a surprise for you. Saying this, the dog ran towards a large mansion that was in the center of that kingdom, followed by the boys who went after him. Upon arriving at the place, they saw that it was a huge mansion, where the servants of the place were already waiting for them. Servant. Welcome, our masters await you in the living room with the other guests. The boys entered the house, where Zolo continued to guide them, until they reached the main room where not only the Aztec gods were there, but also Kurenai, Odo-san, Ingvild Oka-san. Issei. Guys, I'm glad you're okay. It's a joy that nothing happened to you. Ingvild. Now tell us, how did you dare to break into something you were told not to touch? I ask as behind her there were several water dragons. The boys. I'm sorry. At that, a hand touched the purple-haired girl's shoulder. Don't worry about that, it's not a big deal, and the best thing is that this is how they learned about our traditions. Ingvild. Okay, Sekiryuutei-san. Irie. Excuse me, but who are you? Sekiryuutei. I'm sorry I haven't introduced myself, my name is Sekiryuutei, I am the goddess who, together with my husband, rules this place. Indeed, in front of them was the goddess of death of the Aztec kingdom. Well I hope you enjoy this banquet that our new chef made. Issei. Thank you very much for your hospitality, Sekiryuutei-san. Sekiryuutei. It's our honor to have the hero of the factions in our home. But let's move on to the dining room to enjoy today's dinner. Saying this, everyone went to the table to eat the Mexican-style food that the new chef of the place had prepared. Once dinner was over, everyone was more than satisfied, and then the chestnut tree spoke. Issei. Sekiryuutei-san, thank you for the dinner you gave us to try tonight. Sekiryuutei. The one who deserves these thanks is my new chef, please send her to Miss Shuri Himejima. Those from Japan were shocked to hear that name, especially a certain black-haired boy. At that moment a Japanese girl had entered the room, but the moment she saw that boy she ran towards him. Shuri. I finally meet you my dear grandson. Kurenai inadvertently began to cry when he felt the embrace of the girl who had him in her arms. Kurenai. It's really you, Grandma. Shuri. Yes my little grandson, I finally have the chance to meet you. Both of them continued hugging while the boys just smiled at this encounter, then the older brunette went to meet these two. Issei. It's finally a pleasure to meet you, Shurioka-sama. Shuri. I say the same, it's a pleasure to meet the person who brought happiness back to my dear daughter. Sekiryuutei. Well let's continue with this meeting. Saying this the party continues at the place, where Kurenai took advantage of every moment of being with her grandson. 2 days later. The Day of the Dead festivities were over, but that didn't mean the love and memory of what the boys had experienced that day would go away. On the other hand, with the alliance already made, Quetzalcoatl gave them a grand tour of the areas that once held the Aztec Empire and the modern Mexico City. The boys enjoyed this trip and bought lots of gifts for their brothers. As for the chestnut tree, the gods took him to see Mexican wrestling. He was so fascinated that he not only bought some masks of the wrestlers who fought that day, but Quetzalcoatl also introduced him to the very sons of the legendary saint and blue demon. On the other hand, a certain goddess of death gave a rather special gift to a purple-haired girl who had told her unhealthy things. Sekiryuutei. If you give this concoction to your husband you will see that he will have energy for up to a week. I do this when my husband is tired of discussing how the rest of the souls who arrive with Hades will be. Ingvild. Thank you very much for the gift. Of course, as he said this, his eye shone in a sinister way, which only made the brown-haired man pale. Issei. Because I have a feeling I won't rest for a week. After that, the Aztec gods, along with Zolo, accompanied the group of demons to the airport to see them off. Quetzalcoatl. Surely they won't use the new transportation stamp. Issei. If the truth is, as long as I don't get to the Alliance headquarters and you give me more tasks, I'll be calm. Zolo. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the Day of the Dead celebrations we celebrated. Ol Kurenai. Thank you for your guidance. Sekiryuutei. Young Kurenai, are you okay? Kurenai. Yeah, I just wanted to know if I could get permission to put. Zolo. Yes. Kurenai. An altar for my grandmother in our house. The gods saw only that and were glad that their festivities would take place elsewhere. Sekiryuutei. Of course, you have permission and don't worry, your grandmother can go see them, as long as she puts her photograph on the altar and puts the following. Then he gave her a list of how to set up an altar of the dead, with all the necessary materials. Kurenai. I understand, thank you very much. Zolo. By the way, don't forget to bring a good beer, as strange as it may seem when you arrived at Mictlan you liked this drink. Kurenai. I won't forget it. At that moment, the flight to Japan had been announced, signaling that it was time to return home. End of flashback. Kurenai. And that's what happened Oka-san. Akeno. That's true, I hope Oka-sama enjoys this altar that has been made for her. He said when he saw that not only his photo was on the altar, but also that of several of those who gave their lives in that war against the Chaos Brigade. At that moment a retweet arrived at the place. X. Wow, the altar looks great, but now help with the preparations for today's Halloween party. Kurenai. Here we go. All the boys went downstairs and prepared the last details for the party they organized for the Alliance members. Once finished, the boys dressed in different costumes, some classic monsters and others opted for Mexican legends or professional wrestlers, such as Issei who dressed up as the Blue Demon, agreeing with Vali to have him be the saint. All the Hyoudou leaders, friends, and family members arrived at the party, including their new friends from the Aztec faction. When Kurenai saw the Mictlan gods arrive, she led them and your mother to the altar they had made at the highest point of the residence. When they saw it, they were amazed at how it turned out. Sekiryuutei. Well done boy, your grandmother will really like to come here. Cutley. It's true, it's a great job. Kurenai. Thank you and grandma I hope you like it. Akeno. You'll see. Saying that she felt as if someone was hugging her, but when she turned around there was no one there, and then she shed a tear of joy. Kurenai. Oka-san, it's okay. Akeno. Yes son, it was just the excitement of the moment. The two gods saw each other and just smiled because they knew what happened. Akeno. It's better to go downstairs and continue the party. The others listened and went downstairs, leaving the brunette on the terrace. Akeno. I hope you enjoy this, we made it with all the love we have for you, and so you know that we will never forget you Oka-sama. After that she entered the house again, what she didn't notice was that a mist formed on the altar, giving the shape of her mother. Shuri. I love you too, and I will never forget you my beloved Akeno. This was just a sign that the love of those who are no longer in this world will never leave and will be with us, in the hearts of each one who will always honor their loved ones. Chapter 6. The usual, the engagement party and a farewell. Estadio Hyoudou Issei. At the top of the stadium, where the figure of an imposing drake was seen in all its splendor, it was temporarily adorned by the fireworks that were launched at the end of that raiding game that caught the attention not only of supernatural beings, but also of humans. In the stands, the groups of fans that each of Issei's children had shouted with excitement, the ex-Gremory group was the most notable because all the girls from Kuoh Academy were there with banners supporting the retweet. In the faction leaders' boxes, they chatted calmly, analyzing the outcome and even more so, wondering what would happen with the bet the boys had made for this game. On the other hand, on the balcony of Saji, better known as the Dragon King of Vitra, he was with his wives who were originally the pieces of his former mistress, except for Yura who went to Issei's side. They were proud of their children who belonged to the entourage of Sona's second son and firstborn, Shido Hyoudou, for the way they fought against their friends and the great support for their king. But in the box of the great pillar of the factions, Hyoudou Issei, there was a somewhat pleasant atmosphere. In the main chair was Issei watching as his wives Rias and Sona tried to figure out how to fix the laying, while Akeno and Yasaka pampered him between two pairs of breast pillows, Kaneko as usual since high school, sitting on one of Issei's legs next to Ravel, who shared the other leg and her right arm her breasts, and Asia who watched that debate with concern. Rias. Your son was the first to leave the game. Sona. It's not true, it was Akeno's, so you should pay the bet, right dear? Rias. I don't think so, my ice knows that my sister Akeno's son is more powerful and resistant, which is why he came out after your son, right love? The girls just turned to look at the king of the harem they belonged to with a support me face. At that, the brunette just looked at the girls in a way that gave them permission to leave their love zone, to which they moved, letting the brunette go with those girls who seemed to want to pull each other's hair. Suddenly they both gave a pleasant moan when they felt Issei's hand on their butts, each of them bringing them closer to him. Issei. It doesn't matter who lost the game, both are winners because they have a man who will always love them, and more with their beautiful games that they make for me, so if both of them fulfill the bet he gave, and we enjoy the best of us on the trip. The girls just turned red and wanted to give themselves to their husband when they felt the touch of the dragon on their bottoms being caressed. Rias. My love, you are so bold that it makes me want to take you to the bathroom and give you my love. Sona. Only you know how to calm me down, my perverted dragon. They both just looked at each other and smiled, then kissed him lustfully one after the other. Of course, Rias was the first as the alpha of the harem. The Kuoh. Ara, so taking advantage of the fact that Mayonada is about to enter the mating season, Yufufu. Isaka. This is the best time for my beloved, but I think we should stop here and go see the children, don't you think? Issei and his wives returned to the reality of what was happening and looked at Zenobia. Issei. That's right, honey, you and Irina can go and tell Sarayer to give a warning. Zenobia. Which one would it be? Issei. Let them wait for the final show, but cut the game broadcast on TV. My sons made a very foolish bet and must pay the consequences for wanting to humiliate the other. After that, they'll catch up with us in the infirmary. Irina. Understood darling, let's go Zenobia. Both girls were leaving the place moving their hips in a flirtatious way to incite Issei, which was working. Suddenly the brown-haired boy felt something soft between his fingers and saw that it was one of Akeno's breasts. The Kuoh. Ara, so you'll do that, how evil you are my love, you make my side that you love awaken. Ingvald. I say after the party we say goodbye to the house in the best way possible. The brunette only shuddered, but at the same time with a little ecstasy, only to release Rias from his butt and give Sona a kiss. Issei. Okay, let's go with the boys, it's time to see how they are and pay their silly bet. Saying this, all the girls went more calmly, this because Issei was the only one who could see that perverted side of them in his box or in his private room. While this was happening in the boxes, we can see in the center of the arena how both queens just looked at the floor and with heavy faces because they knew that this result did not benefit either of the two entourages that had participated. They'll kill us both. Athena. I know, brother, but I hope my father doesn't apply that. Why do you say that? Athena. This afternoon, since the visit to the school, I passed by his office and overheard a conversation between him and Akeno Okasama. What kind of talk? This worried the Redeed because he already had an idea. Flashback. We see an Athena who was texting with Mitsuda's son in the hallways of the house after having exchanged both of their numbers after the parents' visit. Athena. Hello Sia. Sia. How are you Athena, tell me everything well. Athena. Yes, but I'm messaging you because I want to ask you something. Sia. Tell me, what's going on? Athena. I know this may sound daring, but I'd like you to join me at the party tonight. Sia. You're talking about your brother's engagement party, right? Athena. Of course, that one. Sia. Well I would love to go, I think my parents are invited and if so we will all be together at the party and it will be fun. Athena. I don't think you understand, I want you to go as my companion, whether it's to dance or socialize in a peaceful way. Sia's message was slow to arrive, leaving a worried Athena who just walked in circles waiting for that answer in front of her father's office when the message she so longed for had arrived. Sia. Okay, I'll go as your companion. Athena. Okay, then we'll see each other tonight here at the mansion. Sia. If I see you there and good luck in your fight today, I'll be supporting you. The girl was only happy about that message and began to jump from one side to the other with joy, but then she heard voices in her father's office. It was him and one of her many mothers. Issei. So Akeno, tell me, what's today's bet? I hope it's something interesting. Akeno. Actually, they bet the usual. This comment made the brown-haired boy sigh in heaviness. Issei. Seriously, with those guys, being able to bet something more, I don't know how the assignment of the days of the training room are going to the forest of the relatives for those who still lack it, they decide to make that stupid bet. The brunette looked at her husband's face in a funny way and went with him to sit on his lap and show him a bit of her cleavage. Akeno. Come on Issei-kun, don't get mad at them, they're just kids, you and I were that immature in our youth. Issei. Well, what clauses does this have? Akeno. Well, what my father told me through Azazel-sensei is that the bet would be paid at the end of the game. Issei just thought this and looked at the girl who gave him a smile. Issei. Fine, I'll do something to end this silly bet once and for all. Akeno. You'll get aggressive with them my love. She told him while she pressed her breasts towards him and in a bold and mischievous way he slapped her making the girl moan. Issei. I think I have an idea, well I better go, I have to see Azazel and. He was silenced by a kiss from the brunette who quickly slipped her tongue into his mouth with that deep kiss. Bekeno. No my Anata, you have just lit this flame and you will take responsibility, let's have some fun without the others finding out, as your official lover is my duty to corrupt you in many ways and for you to be unfaithful only with me to the others, Yufufu. The girl took her lover's hand and placed it on her chest. Issei. I have no other truth. The girl just took Issei's big friend out of his pants, making the adult moan. Bekeno. I don't think so, Anata, let's go from here with the seal to the special room. Saying this, the voices inside the office disappeared, but what they didn't notice was that on the other side was Athena, redder than a lobster, who had heard and seen everything through the small door handle. Athena. I think we're doomed today. Still with his face red, he ran away from the place and with images he didn't want to remember. End of flashback. X was just shocked by such a statement and then heard the voice of his uncle Serekh. Serekh. Public that accompanied us today to this great game, I received a statement from the pillar of the factions that we wait a bit, he has a big surprise for all of us from his daughters, they tell me that it is usual, this will only be shown to people who accompanied us in the stadium tonight. The boys who were still in the arena turned pale upon hearing this and just looked at each other. Nursing. Garini and Shido had already been taken care of and were now resting peacefully. On Shido's side, his girlfriend Nakirura was lying on his chest. On the other hand, Kiba's daughter Alice was holding Himejima's hand with a blush, but a smile. Alice. Tell me Kurenai, do you already have a date for today's party and dance? Kurenai. No, I plan to go. Alice. Then I'll be your partner, let's have fun. The girl just squeezed his hand tenderly, making the boy blush, who, although he didn't admit it, liked Kiba and Tsubaki's daughter. Kurenai. Okay, let's go together. The girl was delighted and kissed him on the cheek, which made the boy turn even redder than he already was. Suddenly on television there was that announcement that Serekh made, making all the boys pale. Ernestine. It can't be true, right? Zen. Please let it be a lie. At that moment, the infirmary door suddenly opened, revealing a brunette with a serious expression. Issei. I'm very serious, you wanted to humiliate each other, and so it will be done, but the entire audience that came to see us will be a witness. Shido. You're not serious, are you, father, mother? Kurenai just looked at her father who had an overly serious expression. Kurenai. I think this is serious. Issei. Okay, prepare everything you need, I'll see you in 5 minutes, and you girls please follow us. Pointing to her children's friends and girlfriends, as well as Razor's daughter, they left the infirmary in a worried manner. The mothers of the others came out from behind the chestnut tree and without looking at their children they just turned around. The boys, including Saji's sons, were more than worried that they would do that. Some just quietly cursed their father for imposing this and others cried comically because their classmates were in the stadium. Minutes passed and in the main square there was a box with various clothes and funny hats and colorful wigs. At that moment a somewhat large magic seal appeared where all those who participated in the rating game came out. At that moment Issei appeared with his serious face and looked at the boys in an intimidating way. Issei. Cambiance. The boys didn't believe what they heard, but then they were covered by a smokescreen. The boys just wanted to be swallowed up by the earth because they were about to do something stupid. At that moment, a microphone appeared in Issei's hand. Issei. Good evening ladies and gentlemen. Everyone cheered the chestnut-haired boy because, being the hero of the factions, he was very loved, especially by the children's mothers. In the VIP room, the leaders watched attentively to what the chestnut-haired man would do. With them were their closest friends and their children, who had no idea this would happen live. Issei. Today I come to bring you a show that you will never forget, with you the members of the Hyoudou family and their entourages will give you a surprise, please we ask you to put away your cameras or you run the risk of it exploding. At that moment, a curious person ignored the warning and as soon as he focused on the center of the runway, his camera exploded. Issei. I told you, well now enjoy this since it's the payment for the bet. The curtain faded only to see the chestnut's children wearing ridiculous clothes, colorful wigs, and silly accessories. Everyone started laughing wildly while the boys were dying of embarrassment, then the brunette turned to look at them and with a sharp look spoke to them. The leaders were surprised by this fact and it caught their attention that neither the mothers nor the Saji group were going to stop it. Suddenly Sirzechs became curious and took his camera to focus on his nephew. He was surprised that in other places the cameras were destroyed except for his. Seeing this fact, the other leaders and friends of the boys did the same as the Crimson Mao. Issei. Now dance. The boys just resigned themselves and started paying off their bet. Sorry for the image quality. Once they finished dancing, they couldn't take it anymore and started crying from the pain they had gone through. At that, some of the kids looked at their father in a bad way, but he just gave them a smile that said, "You've learned. Issei. Thank you very much and now forget it." Saying this, a layer of fog covered all the stands, alerting the leaders, but at that moment they saw the chestnut tree's wives who were responsible for the fog. Everyone in the place fell asleep, which the brunette took advantage of and took off the funny clothes they were all wearing, something that surprised most of them. The leaders would go to the chestnut tree to clarify what had happened, but soon a voice near their place caught their attention. Angel 1. What happened? Demon 1. I think the game is over. Yuck, I won. It's true, the game ended in a tie, it was the best I've ever seen. These comments were heard not only by the leaders, but also by the children, who were surprised by this. Suddenly, they saw their father standing in front of them, but with a calm smile, he took his two older sons and raised his hands in the air. Issei. Thank you very much for joining us in this wonderful game of my children, I hope you like it. Everyone was shouting with excitement, something that neither king understood, but in a low voice they heard their father. Issei. I hope you've learned that humiliating others isn't the right thing to do. I don't want this bet to happen again. The boys felt like children and hugged their father, followed by the others who had understood what had happened at that moment. Issei. Well, go home, the party is in a little while. The brunette just looked at his children calmly and left the arena towards the boxes, leaving the children with a calm smile, knowing that their classmates would never find out about this dance, or so they thought. Karenia. We didn't apply it. Shido. I know, the good thing is that tomorrow they go on vacation. X. And they will leave us without someone to take care of us. Kurenai. Well, let's go, you have to get ready, brother. VIP stages. The leaders waited for the chestnut to arrive, then the first to arrive were Saji and his wives, then Issei's wives, and finally he arrived. Sirzechs. Ice Oni, what was all that? Issei. Oni-sama, just a lesson to stop making that ridiculous bet. Azazel. But Saji, I'm surprised you agreed. Saji. Actually, I ran into him in the hallway and he told me what he would do. I know it was risky and humiliating for the boys, but I'm relieved that he did his part about erasing the evidence. Momo. Well, almost everything. She said with a smile as she took out a digital camera. Issei. Yes, this is a gift from me to you. Well, we will wait for you today at 11 at night at the Hyoudou mansion, Volley, and I must give an announcement to the leaders and of course friends are more than invited. The albino just nodded and left the room with his wife and daughter. The other leaders wondered what that announcement was, except for Sirzechs, who already knew what it was about thanks to his sister. Time skip. The Hyoudou brothers game had already ended, and in the Hyoudou brothers mansion, there was a great deal of movement in the main hall. Waiters were preparing the place for the evening's party, and in the kitchen, the best banquets that the underworld wanted to taste were being prepared. The Hyoudou siblings had arrived, some tired and others more refreshed, they all went to their private bathroom, and faster than lightning, they were more than ready for today's dance and party. In a certain Redeed's room he was very nervous, so much so that where his handkerchief should have been, there was his underwear, of course he didn't notice it until he was taken out of his thoughts when suddenly there was a knock on his door and he gave permission to enter, the one who was entering was Issei with his suit more than ready. Issei. Are you okay, son? X. Yes father, I'm just nervous. Issei. Why? X. What if Larry backs out and runs away from the party to seal the engagement, or a childhood friend comes and fights for her hand, or… Issei. Calm down son, the only one who can do that is me and your mother knows it well, but don't worry, I'm sure she loves you too much and won't back down from this. The brown-haired boy simply hugged his son with one arm and he returned the hug as if it were a small gesture. Issei. Now let me see you. The Redeed only stepped back to model the white suit he was wearing. You look very handsome, son. The one who said that was Rias, who was at the door of her room looking tenderly at her son and a tear escaping from her cheeks. X. Thank you mother. The Redeed came in and straightened the boy's suit where some wrinkles could be seen and with a little of her saliva, she arranged his hair. X. Enough, mother, that's not it. Rias. I'm sorry, but I still see you as the little X who wanted to be like his father in every way. The brown-haired boy just laughed at that comment while X just looked away. Rias. But hey, I'm proud that you're about to take a big step with the lovely Valerie. Issei. That's true, well we'll leave you to relax. X. Thanks, I know it's a party, but I'm still nervous. Issei. Well, we'll see you downstairs in a moment. We have to receive the guests and X. X. Yes father. Issei. The underwear goes under the pants, not as a handkerchief. Rias just laughed tenderly as she took her husband's hand and left the place. On the other hand, the Redeed noticed that, and when checking his bag, he noticed that it was his clean one. Then he checked under his pants and confirmed that he was not wearing anything underneath it. Minutes passed and we saw that little by little the leaders, family and friends of the Hyoudou were arriving at the Great Hall. The atmosphere was ideal, as Issei was with the leaders talking about possible alliances with the other factions that were not yet part of it, such as the Inca and the Roman, this on the advice of the recently united Aztec faction. At his side and as protocol, Ingvild was at his side as queen of the entourage. The girls from the pure demon clans were talking with the matriarchs of the other demon houses, of course Rias and Sona, as leaders of the demon houses, were the ones who talked the most. Their queens must have been by their side. And the other girls talked with their human friends about trivial things from their homes. Instead, the chestnuts' children were with their partners or love interests. Garenia was talking to Alice near the window, Shido and his girlfriend were dancing on the dance floor to the music playing, Irie and Ryu were eating the appetizers the waiters were giving out. Zen and Shin were chatting pleasantly with the Motohama sisters while holding their hands. Zen was chatting with Sumareko who couldn't stop looking at him with a smile, and Shin was chatting with AM who was making affectionate jokes. Elmwidge was talking calmly with Natsu, who noticed how blushed the girl was and he was happy. Robertina and Belle ate some cake and gave each other a taste of what they ate. Athena was more than nervous with Sia who was her partner for tonight. The girl despite being cheerful this time was more than nervous. Naruto and Ikki were on the balcony kissing their respective girlfriends, Rei and Serena. The girls were happy to see their boys again. And finally, Alucard was looking at how beautiful the moon was while waiting for his beloved to arrive. Everything was quiet at night and they were just waiting for those involved to show up when Vali arrived with his wife Lavinia and another girl. Gabriel. Marana-san, it's nice to see you. In fact, the second person I arrived with, along with the albino, was the blonde's former ace. Marana. Gabriel-sama, it's a pleasure to see you again and I'm glad about your wedding with Issei-sama, unfortunately I couldn't go to your wedding, my apologies. Gabriel. I understand, being behind the Vatican and making sure things are done as they should be. Marana. I know, and with my daughter's training there, time has passed, but I already missed being with my dear Vali and my harem sisters. By the way, that's your son, right? She saw the little one in the arms of the blonde who hid because she didn't know her. Gabriel. Indeed, Kateri-chan says hello to your Aunt Marana. The little one just came off his mother's breast and gave a small bow. This made the nun get excited and take the child in her arms. Marana. It's so cute. Mother, my father says they are waiting for us, we must go. The one who arrived was the daughter of Vali and Marana. Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you Gabriel-sama, my name is Arturia Shiratova, daughter of your former ace and the celestial white dragon. At that moment, Lefei-san had arrived behind Gabriel in search of her. Roy. Gabriel Okasama, my uncle Michael is looking for you. Oh excuse me I didn't notice you were talking, it's a pleasure my name is Roy Pendragon a pleasure. The boy's attitude, the respectful way he spoke to them made the blonde blush slightly. The boy noticed the young lady in front of him and gave a small bow and extended his hand. Roy. Nice to meet you, could you tell me your name, beautiful lady? Arturia. Arturia Shiratova, it's a pleasure to meet you. Roy. Miss Shiratova, I would be honored to join you for this beautiful evening. The girl just nodded and took his hand, only to walk away. Gabriel. I think our families will be closer. Marana. I think the same, poor Vali, first his eldest daughter and now the second with Issei-sama's children, it seems the fight between the dragons will end with the union of the families. The girls just laughed and went to where the others were. On the other hand, 3 young men who were apparently very good friends were arriving at the entrance door. Wow, this party looks boring, but I have to listen to my father and come. Shut up Bakugo Phoenix, at least they told you, they forced me to come, and I was about to defeat Issei Bear. Issei. How many times should I tell you Jin to only call me by my name, I feel uncomfortable with the whole last name, I feel like they don't see me, but Seraird-san. The 3 boys just watched the party and found it boring. Bakugo. At least I hope we can dance with someone, it looks like everyone came in pairs. Jin. I know, I just wanted to keep practicing, but oh well, let's hope I don't see them with a partner, or I'll feel really bad. Issei. Remember that it was our decision and if we see them with someone else we won't be able to complain. Bakugo. Say it for yourself, I'll keep away any bastard who wants to get close to my cute kitty. At that moment Issei saw 3 girls who were talking and were not accompanied. Issei. Come on, I'm sure we'll dance today. The 3 of them went to where the blonde indicated, but they didn't notice who they were actually going to see. Issei. Good evening ladies, we were wondering if. At that, those who turned to look noticed and they were Issei's single daughters, I mean Ernestine, Kurobura and Shirayuki, who just put on a nervous face. Ernestine. Look what we have here, sisters, the inconsiderate ones of our first ex-boyfriends who left us for their training. I commented while cupping Iseoi's cheek. Kurohbura. I thought you decided to continue your training instead of staying by my side. Jin. Kurohbura, I can explain. Kurohbura. I don't want to hear you, I told you to leave me alone if you left my side, besides it's not like I'm going to make an effort to be at your level. Akugu. TSCH, I already told you Shirayuki, I must be one in the Phoenix family, and then I would come for you. The white-haired girl just turned around and walked away from them, but then the boy took her hand and stole a kiss from her lips. Shirayuki. You think that with one of your kisses I'll fall in love with you again. Akugu. Don't say anything anymore and let's enjoy the night, don't think I don't miss you. Without letting go of the Nico's hand, he went to another side of the room. Jin. Come on Kurohbura, at least let me spend this evening with you. The girl said nothing and took the monkey son by the hand and they left, leaving the vampire alone with Iseoi. Iseoi. Ernestine, they. Ernestine. Don't say anything, if tonight goes well I'll give you another chance. Iseoi. You know, even with the training in the underworld, I couldn't stop thinking about you and wondering if you'd ever forgive me. The boy was silenced by a kiss from the vampiress, something tender that felt like the affection of childhood friends. Ernestine. We'll see later, now let's go get something to eat, you probably just finished your workout and haven't eaten, come on. The last girl left led the boy to the snack table. After a few minutes, the lights dimmed, giving way to a TV-style spotlight that illuminated the entrance, where the doors swung wide open to reveal the happy couple walking arm in arm. Those present began to applaud as they entered slowly, waving their hands in the air. X. You look beautiful. He said to a white-haired woman wearing a beautiful white dress and a small gem tiara on her head. Valeri. You too, my love. Blushing, she returned the compliment from the boy who only gave her a loving smile. Both arrived at the main table where Issei along with Rias and Vali along with Lavinia were waiting for their children, behind them were the three leaders of the biblical faction. At that Issei took a microphone and began his speech. Issei. Good evening, friends and family who join us tonight, we're not only two large families, but two young people who sincerely love each other, are about to get engaged and become one family. Vali. As my friend and rival said, today we want to introduce to the entire underworld and part of the alliance the union of our children, Valeri Lucifer and ex-Hyoudou Gremory, who have decided to get engaged as a couple of young devils. Those present began to applaud the words of both, at which point both the brunette and the white man passed the microphones to their wives. Rias. Valeri, you who have been my little ex's friend and who are now about to take a big step, I ask you to always take care of him and be by his side, he may be naughty and sometimes he doesn't listen, but remember that he also has a weak point and you must be the person who helps him overcome it. Lavinia. X, I ask you to take care of our princess who has always been protected not only by me and her father, but by her other mothers as the heir to the house of Lucifer, but above all for being little Valeri who will always have her qualities and weaknesses, but I know that by your side, she will be the happiest person, because she will have the love of a partner. The girl was about to cry, but stopped when she saw what her boyfriend did. X bent down and pulled out a small box, and when he opened it, there was the same ring his mother had once worn. Flashback. The day Rias found out about X and Valeria's engagement and of course after punishing a certain brunette she called her son to her office. X. You called me mother. Rias. Yes, look, I already found out about the engagement because of the fight they had. X. Sorry mother, but my dragon sighed. Rias. Don't worry, anyway, I've already punished your father, I called you to tell you that we'll see in these years if they are compatible and not compromise them by force. At that she stretched out her hand and saw her engagement ring. Rias. This ring was given to me by your father after a few years of relationship we had in college, I knew he was my ideal man, since he saved me from your Uncle Razor. X. I already know that story, mother. But that she took off her engagement ring and put it in a small box. Rias. Here, if Valeri is the girl you want to be with, you will give her this ring. X. Sure mother, this ring was given to you by my father. Rias. And he received it from his mother, it's a gift that unites families, but you'll only give it in time and to the right person, hopefully it's Valeri. X. Okay, thanks mom. What they didn't notice was that a brunette heard that and walked down the halls, with a black eye, his pelvis in tatters, but with a smile. Issei. I knew you were the right one to give me that ring, my dear Rias. End of flashback. Iridide looked at the ring and a tear of happiness came to her eyes, at that moment she felt her husband's hand take hers and give it a light squeeze, implying that she should turn around and see that smile of happiness at seeing this moment. X. Valeri Lucifer, I had already told you this, and I know that it is destiny that we both be together. I know that I will be a pervert like my father, but you will be the only one to see this side of me. That is why today in front of our parents, friends and leaders like uncles of the Alliance, I ask you to accept to be my wife." The girl just cried with joy, to the point that the tears wouldn't let her speak. She just stretched out her hand so X could place the ring on the corresponding finger and throw it to the ground because of the kiss he gave her, the first kiss as an engaged couple that meant the beginning of a new life. Everyone present was more than happy about this fact and applauded, except for X's girls and sisters who screamed with excitement. At that point, X's uncle took the microphone to say a few words. "Sirzechs, former Hyoudou Gremory, Valeri Lucifer, we the leaders of the Alliance, approve this union of both families and give them our blessing. Now as an uncle, I am very happy that my dear nephew is getting married. Congratulations on that, and I commend you a lot, Valeri." After these words, the orchestra began to play a piece, and the master of ceremonies invited the engaged couple to dance their first piece together. The two men looked at each other and began to dance quietly, only to end the dance with a kiss. The party continued all night, where all the children had fun with their respective partners, either joking, talking, dancing, and other things. They took advantage of the fact that their relationships were more than advanced and kissed each other, with the occasional touch that only brought them closer together. The next day, most of the guests had left, leaving the young people with a sleepless night in the event room. Everyone wanted to go to sleep, but they had to do something that morning. At the door of the mansion were a pile of suitcases belonging to Issei and his wives, who were sleepy-faced, but had to leave that same day for their home in Hawaii, to spend some time alone with their husband. On the other hand, the chestnut tree had a jar of coffee in its hand, but this one looked fresher than the others. In front of them were Kurenai and Hyoudou, and behind them their respective parodies. Issei: "Well, it's time to go. Hyoudou and Kurenai will be in charge of surveillance of the city, with the help of the Phoenix and Bale clans, in addition to the volley team." Kurenai: "Understood, father." Hyoudou: "Don't worry, we'll be fine." Issei: "Don't forget, if there's a big problem, call me. Dreg will be with X if anything happens." Dreg: "Don't worry, buddy, I'll be on the lookout, and if anything happens I'll let you know. Remember that we are both the Sekiryuutei, and it doesn't matter if we are separated, we will always be on the lookout." Issei: "Okay, now come and say goodbye to your mothers." The children listened and went to their respective mothers to say goodbye first, then went to the others and wished them a safe trip, and ended up throwing the brunette into a hug. Gabriel: "Here Kurenai, I'll leave little Kateru-chan in your care." The baby just jumped into his brother's arms and was more than happy as he tenderly said goodbye to his mother. Gabriel: "We won't be long, Kota-chan, so don't cry." Kateru: "Kota-chan no Larara," he said tenderly as he asked for the arms of his sister Irie, who carried him. Issei: "Well, it's time to go, but I feel like I'm forgetting something." The brown-haired boy stood there thinking as Zen and Shin murmured. Zen: "I hope he doesn't bring babysitters, we're already grown up." Shin: "That's true." At that moment a car horn sounded and two people got out. Mickey: "Son, we arrived on time." Issei: "Thank you for coming, mother." The boys just froze when they saw their grandparents at the door of the house, since they thought they would be left alone. Boru: "Don't worry, son, you know we like spending time with our beloved grandchildren." At that the Gremory family circle appeared, where Rias' parents, along with Grayfia, Milikas and his fiancée Kunu appeared. Sirzechs: "It's good that we arrived in time to say goodbye to you, and don't worry, we'll all take care of you, right my friend Goru?" Boru: "Sirzechs, my friend, it's good to see you. Come, I brought some good tequila from our trip to Mexico, you must try it," he said as they entered the house followed by Mickey and Venelana, who were talking. The boys were more than surprised by this, at which point the brown-haired boy spoke to them in a low voice. Issei: "They thought I would leave them alone in this house and risk bringing their girlfriends or boyfriends without adult responsibility." He put on an Alice in Wonderland cat grin while the boys watched as his plans of destruction fell apart. Issei: "Well, we're leaving, it's time to go on vacation." Issei's wives: "Yesss." They took the limousines that were outside the house, leaving the boys with shocked faces. This was the farewell of a chestnut tree that was going to enjoy his marriage, leaving the children at home. Chapter 7. Memory of Vietnam, The Return of the Beast Tamer. Hyoudou Issei's mansion. At the entrance of the mansion we see a large limousine driving away, where the father of all the children of that mansion was going with his wives to an unforgettable vacation. Well for them and for all of us who would like to be in their shoes. Damn lucky son of a. Sorry, I got carried away. Continuing with the narrative, the kids were left with a depressed aura because they thought that after a long time, they would finally be free from adult supervision, but they were very wrong. At the mansion were everyone's grandparents on their father's side and the grandparents of a certain Redeed who had had his engagement party yesterday. Boru. My little ex, forgive us for not being at your engagement party yesterday. Mickey. The flight was delayed in Mexico City and Tlaloc-sama gave us a tour of the city while we waited for the flight. X. Don't worry grandparents, but let me introduce you to my fiancé. The albino only bowed in a sign of respect and greeting like a true high society girl. Valeri. It's a pleasure to meet Issei Tausen's parents, my name is Valeri Lucifer, I am the daughter of the White Emperor Dragon and the Ice Mage. Mickey. What a polite young lady, please take care of our silly grandson, he may be perverted, but he is a good boy. Grandpa Hyoudou just ruffled the boy's hair, causing a blush to appear on his face. X. Enough, Grandpa, I'm not the same kid anymore. Although he didn't say it, X was one of the most attached to the Hyoudou since he spent most of his time with them as a child. While this scene was taking place, Zeodicus only had a gloomy expression as he saw how X grew more attached to his friend. Zeodicus. My little X doesn't love me anymore. Venelana. Calm down, darling, you know he loves us, but we also have Milikas. The aforementioned Redeed, who was cuddling with his fiancé, wasn't paying attention to what his grandmother was saying. Milikas. Sorry grandma, he said something. This of course made a certain brunette angry, but she knew how to get revenge. Venelana. Nothing my little one, I was just saying we should remind your dear uncle what you did with his first daughter. Milikas felt his blood drain from his throat as he recalled that beautiful scene, only to tremble with fear afterwards. Flashback. 6 years ago to be exact, the Hyoudou family was in the mansion's living room, enjoying the few times when everyone was together, to be exact, it was the birthday of a certain daughter of Issei, or rather adopted daughter. It was Miss Kunu's 26th birthday and she was wearing her traditional kimono, a symbol of Yakai royalty, as the leader of that group. At her side was her mother, who only looked at her with tenderness, because that day her reign was already beginning. On her right side was Issei, who was carrying little Naruto on his back, since they were taking the Isaka family photo to immortalize that moment. Isaka. Congratulations my daughter, I'm glad you've reached this age. Issei. My little Kunu, congratulations. Both parents kissed her on each cheek, which made the girl happy. Her other mothers were just enjoying the party while watching their children playing or eating the snacks from that gathering. Unfortunately, every beautiful celebration must have its awkward moments, and this happened to someone who had not been invited to the party. Young Yakai. Yusaka-sama, Issei-sama, it's a pleasure to see you again. Issei. Young June, how many times must I tell you that I will not compromise the Yakai princess with you? June. But Issei-sama, if the princess wishes to have control of our faction, she must at least be engaged to a noble, and that is stated in the law of our race. Kunu. Yes, but it won't be with you. June. And why not? At that point the girl took some photos out of her bag, as if she knew this was going to happen. Kunu. Here I have evidence that you have already committed adultery and are not fit to be my husband, and that you are only seeking me because I am the heir to the mandate of the Yakai. June. And that, your duty is to marry a noble and. Kunu. Which I already did. At that, the girl stretched out her left hand, showing a ring with a large diamond on her ring finger. All the mothers looked at the ring and screamed with excitement, but 3 people only had different reactions. Rias froze when she saw that the ring Grayfia once wore was her stepdaughter's, Issei because of the color of the stone embedded in it, and Yusaka because she saw that her daughter already had a boyfriend. But the latter knew what happened when the engagement seal was consummated. Isaka. Daughter, don't tell me that. The girl just blushed and nodded. On the other hand, June was just stunned to know that the girl had given her engagement gift. Issei. What's up love? At that, the brown-haired man remembered his commitment ceremony and how he sealed this at night, since according to his wife, this was part of the Yakai translations. Issei just turned red and looked at his daughter with a twitch in his eye. Issei. And tell me Kunu who? June. Who was the bastard who took away my fiancé by right as the son of one of the generals of the Yakai army? That would be me. Everyone turned to see the person who came out of a transportation circle, carrying several gifts and flowers in his hands. Kunu. Milikas my love. Milikas. My beloved Kunu, I'm sorry I'm late, but the store hadn't finished wrapping the gifts I bought for you. The kid soon just blushed and went to him to give him a kiss of pure love on the lips. Everyone in the room had different reactions. The boy who wanted to claim Kunu only had an angry look. The mothers of the other boys except Rias will celebrate this. His brothers, as they were still young, only gave a grimace of childish disgust at this display of affection, except for his first cousin, X, since not long ago his fiancé also stole a kiss from him during that fight. Isaka was filled with tears of joy, especially when she saw that her daughter had found a fiancé. Rias just prayed inside, hoping that a certain protective father wouldn't kill his nephew. And finally, the brown-haired boy, well, his brain stopped working because of this statement, and even more so when he met the person responsible for his daughter's new stage. June. What the hell is this? How could you marry this fifth-rate demon? Who knew? This fifth-rate demon, as you call him, is the love of my life. Plus, he follows the law. June. But he's not a yokai and… Isaka. That is no impediment at all, since it is the same with me and my beloved Issei. The law says that she must be at least engaged to a noble, but it does not specify that she be of the same race, and Milika's Gremory is a high-class devil, and noble of the Gremory family, so she complies with this. Milika's. Besides, she's the most important person in my life. June just got angry, but he would make a move that would backfire. June. I challenge you for Kunu's hand, you and I in. Issei. Nowhere, this conversation is over, and I suggest you leave my house if you don't want to continue damaging your family's reputation, especially for the acts of adultery you committed. The young yokai was angered by this, but he had no other choice and left the place. Everyone was happy, except for 3 people, who were looking at the happy couple. Issei. Now Milika's Chan. The aforementioned turned to look at his uncle, but the moment he made eye contact, he swore he saw a demon with a mask behind him. Issei. How is it that you and my little one are engaged? The mother just put on a crazy smile, while Rias just said with her lips moving. Rias. Run. Milika's. Issei nai-san, you see what happens is that. Issei. I'll have to give my condolences to my dear brother-in-law. Hearing this, Milika's didn't think twice and ran out of the place, of course, leaving the gifts on the table next to him. Behind him was Issei along with Rias and Yusaka. Issei. You ate my daughter. Milika's. But I love her. Issei. You ate my daughter. Who knew? Enough Otu-san, he is the love of my life. That party ended in the best way, celebrating the girl by the other mothers, a brown-haired man being calmed by a certain older kitsune, by having her on her legs and a Milika's who was hanging like a pinata and several bruises on his face. Of course that night they accepted the engagement between the families. Sirzechs just looked with pity at his son, who was still hanging and being scolded along with his fiancée by the Redeed's mother. End of flashback. Milika's. You want me to die young, right, Grandma? Venelana. Calm down, it was a joke. Redeed just curled into a fetal position while being comforted by his fiancée. Issei's other children, seeing that they wouldn't have the house to themselves, went back to sleep since the party was over. Time skip. It was already night and dinner was over. X and Valeri were chatting in front of the fireplace about what awaited him on Monday when he would have to go to his new school. Athena and Robertina were looking after their youngest brother, who was looking at a picture book of cute animals. Shido and Kurenai were playing chess while discussing the date they would have tomorrow. Of course Shido would have a different plan at the request of his night piece. The church trio were on their cell phones talking to their love interest while the others were out with their partners. The 3 daughters, who were single, were reconciling with the guys who showed up at the party yesterday. Everything was calm until a call from a certain older brunette had rang on his daughter Robertina's cell phone. Robertina. Otu-san, what happened? Have you arrived at the new house in Hawaii? Issei. No daughter, I only marked them for 2 things, please pass me your brother Kurenai. Obeying, but with a pout that the brown-haired boy didn't see, he handed the phone to the aforementioned man. Kurinia. What's up, father? Issei. Hey, I'm calling you on your phone and you're not answering. Kurenai. I'm sorry I left it loading, but tell me what's going on. Issei. Well, first I want to know how you're doing with your grandparents. Kurenai. Well, the usual, Grandpa Zioticus and Goru are drinking in the patio, and my grandmothers are on their laps, it's like you when you have your day off. Issei. Hey anyway, I wanted to call you to tell you that. At that moment a note appeared in front of the boy, who upon reading it knew what it was. Kurenai. Sorry father, but we have to go after some renegade demons. Issei. I understand, I just wanted to warn you that. At that, the boy ended the call with his father, leaving our brown-haired boy with the phone in his hand. The Y airport. We see all the brunettes' wives ready to take the limo they rented. They were only waiting for 2 people. The first was Issei, who had finished the phone call. The Keno. Anada, you already told Kurenai that he would arrive at the house today. Issei. I was about to tell him, but it seems they were tasked with going after a rogue demon. Asia. I see, it's a shame we can't see it, but we'll have time. Irina. By the way, what time does he arrive? Issei. Well, she left before us, from what I can gather. Out of nowhere Issei's vision went dark, but it was the reason he felt hands covering his eyes. That's who I am. Playing along, since he had already identified her with her scent, he began to grope her while standing behind her, causing the girl to moan, but she wouldn't let him see her. Issei. Well, for the hands, beautiful hair and these big breasts, like beautiful legs you are my beloved Kiem. Indeed, one of Issei's wives who was outside the mansion had arrived at the place. Kiem. My love, I haven't seen you for a long time, I've missed your kisses and feeling your warmth. She said this as she took his hand and placed it on her chest, where there was a dragon mark, a symbol of her fidelity to her husband. Issei. I know, I've missed you too and you don't know how much. Kiem. The good thing is that our son's training is now complete and you'll be proud of him, he's become a great beast tamer. Issei. I want to see it, by the way, I'm already arriving in Japan, right? Kiem. They arrived. The others heard that and were overcome with curiosity. Rias. Have you arrived? Kiem. Yes, X and Kunu won't be Issei's only engaged children anymore. My little boy has brought his fiancée with him. By the way, congratulations on yesterday's engagement. Issei. It's a shame you didn't make it to the party and wait, like promised. Kiem. You know how my father is, and he arranged a marriage for him, but fortune smiled on us since she was a childhood friend. Issei. Oh, you mean her, that girl is nice. Kiem. Yes, my father thought it through, plus her family are also beast tamers and she has a natural talent for it. Bravo. That's why it took you longer than expected, right? Kiem. Yes, training them both was a bit complicated, especially because of their partner, but we finally finished and can return home. Zenobia. That's great news. Asia. By the way, Kiem-san, my daughter also got engaged. Kiem. With whom? Asia. With Saji-san and Raruko-chan's son. Kiem. That's a big surprise, but I imagine Shin and Zen didn't take it well. Asia. Well, it's because he proposed it to her in the middle of the game. Kiem. I see, taking advantage of the fact that you were alone. Congratulations Asia. Asia. Thank you. Gabriel. Anata, only she is missing now and we will all be together as it was in the beginning. When will she arrive? Issei. He told me he would finish his work and catch up with us in 3 days. Rias. Well it's time to go. Hiroka. And make more babies with Issei Naya. Sona. Girls, you know what to do. And with this instruction, Yura and Irina took Issei as if he were a freshly hunted boar and took them to the limousine, where a chauffeur was waiting for them to take them to their new home. Kuoh Airport. Minutes before Issei and Karinia's call was given, a flight from England had landed. The passengers had disembarked the plane and were heading to their destinations. Among them were 2 young people, the boy only having a backpack on his shoulder and the girl a travel backpack. We have arrived, my love, to your homeland. Yes, after a long time of training I can finally return home. Do you think they will receive me in the best way? I don't doubt that, in my family we have been taught to never judge someone without knowing them, besides you are the sweetest thing that exists in this world, I don't think my sisters dislike you. That's why I love you, my life. I just hope my room is still intact. Because you said so? It's just that as children we didn't play practical jokes and one of them was hiding things from others, especially when they weren't home. I see, but I don't think anything bad will happen. You're right, well it's time to go. Yes, but I would like to go to the city center before arriving at your house. I want to at least buy gift bags to hide the gifts we brought for your grandparents. Whatever the love of my life wishes for, and it's true, we must give these gifts a good presentation, so let's take a taxi and go for a night out. Saying this, both boys left the airport to have a romantic moment. Current time. The Hyoudou Himejima family was in the center of the city due to a report of rogue demons in an abandoned premises. Upon arriving at the location, they saw how the environment changed immediately, trapping them in an isolated area. Irie. Wow, that's a lot of demons. Zen. Poor souls who have succumbed to their selfish acts. Kurenai. Well, now you know your positions, let's get started. With that, the brothers went in groups of 2 to fight the renegade demons. Everyone was more than ready and opened the door to the establishment only to be unpleasantly surprised. X. This is not true. Inside there were more than 30 renegade demons, with 2 large ones standing out, which are the shape of dragons. Kurenai. Well, demons who have abandoned their master and followed their petty desires, by order of Duke Agares and under the command of the Hyoudou house, home of the pillar of the factions, we condemn you to death, come my precious dear. But these words the fight had begun. Irie and Zen were doing a fist-sword combination, it seemed as if they were giving classes, since the blows and cuts each one gave were accurate. Robertina and Helmwich quickly eliminated other demons with magic, only to succumb to those attacks. X was the support in recharging and transferring energy, along with Ernestine who was supporting him and covering him. The Yakai sisters, with their features, were already fighting with fists and claws. Finally, Roy, who was the new one to join the demon activities, watched closely next to Kurenai, they analyzed the demon's patterns and covered any disadvantage if there was one. Kurenai. This is bad, I haven't seen this kind of demons before. Roy. I know, but do you have any plans? Kurenai. All I can think of is confusing them and giving them a powerful attack, but we need time too. Then I'll take care of it, come on buddy, use your speed and distract them. Long. Now it's our turn, throw your flare and burn them. Brax. Both brothers turned to look at those responsible for those orders, only to see a black-haired man and a girl wearing red dresses and black blouses. They both recognized the boy, who had a smile on his face. Kurenai. Satoshi. Roy. Bro, I thought you stayed in England. Satoshi. Wow, it's good to see you too Kurenai, and not Roy, my grandfather already freed me from that training. Satoshi-kun, we must finish them off. Satoshi. That's right Serena, well Pikachu use a thunder attack at your maximum power. Serena. Braxian uses your most powerful flare. Both creatures heeded the instructions, and with their great power they eliminated the remaining demons, who were confused by not seeing the speed of that yellow mouse. The others, who were finishing their work, went to where the newcomer had arrived. Robertina. Satoshi Nai-chan. Satoshi. Robertina-chan. Both brothers gave each other a big hug, which made the girl begin to cry with joy. Robertina. I thought it would take longer to see you. Satoshi. My grandfather released me from training after befriending my relative. The girl looked at the little mouse standing on her shoulder. X. Wow, I've never seen this relative before. Greg. I can't believe it. X. What's up? Greg. That little mouse you see there is one of the rarest and most impossible familiars to tame. It is a creature that earns the title of legendary creature, and I say this because I don't like saying its other title. X. What other title? Greg. The killer of legends. This impressed everyone present, while Satoshi puffed out his chest with pride and the small relative just tilted his head in doubt. Greg. He is known as such because of the number of victories he has obtained over other legendary ranking relatives who have wanted to defeat him. The reason he is called a legendary killer is that he himself has killed their pride with his defeat. Satoshi. Yes, he is my family and friend, his name is Pikachu. Pikachu. Pika. This greeting by raising the paw. Irie. What a nice name. Satoshi. Thank you, I named it that way since that's all it says. All the brothers were turned away by that simple answer. Zen. By the way, bro, who is the girl accompanying you? Satoshi. How careless of me, this is Serena, my fiancée and childhood friend from England. Serena. It's a pleasure to finally meet my beloved Satoshi's family, and my familiar is called Braxian. Both bowed in a courteous greeting and received an equal response. Kurenai. Okay, time to go to the mansion and by the way Satoshi. Satoshi. Yes. The other brothers put on a sinister smile on their faces, while Roy put on a face of sadness since he went through the same thing the day he arrived. Kurenai. Today you're going to play find your things all over the mansion. The boy just nodded depressedly and walked with the rest of his siblings, while the brunette only comforted him because she had to search for her things. After this event and the welcome they gave to their brother who had been away from home, the weekend had flown by. That night, his paternal grandparents also introduced his fiancée to him, who gave him the gifts they had brought for the family, which delighted everyone there, and they held a small dinner to commemorate the union. While all this was happening here, on Issei's private island there was another activity culminating. Hyoudou Issei. We see a chestnut tree who was relaxing alone in front of the pool they had put in that house. Through the window of the largest room in the building, one could see the interior, a scene only he could have brought to a close. His wives, all of them sleeping naked, but with a trail of white liquid dripping from their private parts and, above all, a goofy smile on their faces. As he looked at his cell phone, suddenly a message had arrived. Issei. So Monday comes, well with her here my family will be complete after a long time. The brown-haired boy smiled to himself, but from one moment to the next that smile turned into one of lust when he felt a whip grab him by his feet. Irina. Come on darling, it's only the second day and we have plenty of time to recover all the love we have for you. Saying this, he brought the brown-haired boy back into the room and after a few minutes he heard loud moans because they were the only ones on the island. Monday. It was a new day, and at the Hyoudou mansion the activities began at 5 in the morning, with the training of the children with their respective clans. The newcomer just watched the training of both entourages, while the little rat ran around the place excitedly. In the kitchen, the grandmothers prepared everyone's breakfast, while their husbands arranged the cutlery and plates on the table. Mickey. Well, with this breakfast the kids will be more than ready for the new day of school. Venelana. And with lunches ready, Valeri, Satoshi and Serena will enjoy their new school life that is about to begin. At that moment, as the grandmothers were putting the finishing touches on everyone's lunch and breakfast, the sound of a magic circle appeared. Sirzechs and his wife were standing in the hall, awaiting the arrival of the person who emerged from the circle. Sirzechs. I see your grandfather gave permission for you to live with your brothers. It was difficult to convince him, but thanks to finishing the investigation with mother and handing in the work Ijuka-sama asked for, I am free to live the life of a human teenager. Iridi just gave a happy smile upon hearing that. Depriving a young man of the experience of living the stage that he was supposed to live was something he didn't like, but luckily Issei's son managed to obtain this permission. Sirzechs. By the way, what about your mother? She reached father on the island they would have for their relaxation. Grayfia. Well, young man, if you'd like to come by for breakfast, your brothers will be here shortly. By the way, Satoshi is already here, right? Grayfia. Indeed, he arrived yesterday. That's great, I'll ask him to be my equal. Sirzechs. So you're going to start building your entourage? Indeed, as part of the deal we made with Amau, my pieces would be released. By then the others had arrived, surprised to see the brother they had the least contact with. Kurenai. It's a miracle you came to this house, tell me how you've been, Kiyotaka. Kiyotaka. I can't complain, I can now attend the academy with you, but I must speak with Satoshi. Satoshi. With me? Kiyotaka. Yes, I want you to be a member of my peerage. And tell me, how are we doing with the production of artificial demons? The progress has been gratifying, but a horde of it slipped through the net a few days ago. We must be more careful, with them we can bring back the old glory that the demonic faction once had before this pathetic alliance. Who are these people trying to destroy the peace that has been achieved in these times? Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching, if you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day, bye.